Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my co-host of more than 7 years, it's Tom. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends.
Also joining us, first time on the show, and I'm very excited to have him. Take over, Mars. What's going on, buddy? How you doing, Mars?
Oh, ecstatic. So happy to be here. It's weird being on the other side of this.
Well, look, you came up to Brewhammer. I had a great time. We got a game in. I got to talk to your kids. They were very fun and had a lot of their own ideas about starting YouTube channels, which I tried to put them on the right path for. I have no doubt they'll outstrip my channel and everything I've ever done in my life within a matter of months. And we said we got to get you on the show because I wanted to talk Slaanesh again and revisit it. And you were playing Slaanesh at Brewhammer, and so this had to happen. There it was. It was that easy.
It kind of just all fell together. It was perfect.
Kismet. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be talking about Slaanesh. Can it win? I mean, obviously, that's a bit of a clickbaity title. The answer is clearly yes. Sometimes all armies win sometimes, but really more like what's good, what's bad. We're gonna get into the meat and potatoes and probably some side dishes of vegetables, maybe a little gravy. We're gonna get all into it. All right, but first, of course, the news. Tom, did you just remember you were supposed to open the news?
It's
fine.
What you're talking about? Why are you? No, stop. Why are you so negative? Why don't we start there? Why
okay.
are you just always
I'm gonna do the first two news items, Tom, because I already know what they are.
I'm gonna do the news items, and the first one is Ruben Engine, which is a 40K thing.
Yes, great. Now we're gonna move on to the thing I'm gonna talk about. Okay. So everybody, guess what? There's a lot of news here on the channel. That's right. There's this. We're not normally doing a lot of self-promotion news. But hey, guess what, everyone? We've got a lot of channel update news. So, first things first, if you saw last week, you noticed Tyler's new little art image. That was thanks to new art, which I had done recently, pushing back to the beginning of the year. So you're still going to see some more different art pieces, which leads to new merch. That's right. There is a bunch of new merch in the merch store. And guess what, folks? Some of it is on black t-shirts and black hoodies. So we have merch on black, not just white. I know that was a very popular request to have multiple colors. We even have a nice heavy metal steel gray color for some of that stuff, too, where available. And as a matter of fact, some of the new merch is I made a shirt with Tyler's little sprite, and it says Team Tyler. And then there is a shirt with Tom's little sprite that says Team Tom. And so you can vote for which one of these two of my co-hosts, whose team you're on. And I will know who won because I'll see how many.
I did not approve this competition.
That's irrelevant. Irrelevant.
I got you, Tom. I got you.
And I will be able to see who is actually the more popular co-host because whoever people vote with their dollars, that is the strongest way they can vote. So yes, new merch in the merch store. Link is down below. Check it out. We got socks and mugs and all sorts of fun crap. And there'll be more. If people have suggestions or designs or catchphrases or things like that you want to see on there or you want to see us make, please tell me. Drop it down in the comments and I will make that happen. Second other big news stuff related to the channel. That's right. The Patreon is live. Oh my goodness. We did it. There is in fact a Patreon now for my channel for this activity we're doing here. I am going to repeat here the thing I said in the video change I did at the beginning of the year, which is zero content I ever produce on this channel. 0%, zero, not one whit, not one lick, not 1 second of content I produce now until the end of time will be behind a paywall. Period. Full stop. Hard commitment. Okay? I have no intention of ever doing that. I don't want it. I will never do it. This is my solemn oath. Now, what the Patreon is for is two things. One, you think what we do on this channel or what I do on this channel is cool, and you want to chip in a couple bucks to support. I'm grateful for that. Thank you. Two, if you want to get some review feedback on your models, one-on-one coaching. It's a venue for me to teach. And so a lot of people were asking to have like one-on-one teaching and coaching and review and feedback, and there are ways on the Patreon that you can do that. There's also a Discord and stuff like that that you get into depending on the level you sign up at, where you know can interact with you and stuff like that. So that's up. Link is down in the description. It will be in the link of all the videos. Check it out. The only thing that's limited in the Patreon is the one-on-one coaching, because that requires time, and I only have so much time in the month. So there are limited slots for that. There you go. Big channel news all around as the journey toward trying to turn this into a semi-non-professional operation continues.
I mean, related to that, look, I'm semi-professional here.
You do, Tom. You have a nice background. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we're getting there. Eventually, maybe it'll look nice.
And I see Dan has already cottoned to the fact that one of the things you can do, by the way, Tom, on Patreon, is you can put little images to each tier. Little like you can assign a little image to each tier. So you're one of the images. You're the lowest tier. And then Tyler is the next tier up from you.
The abuse that I put up with, I tell you.
All right, so there we go. And remember, if you want to support the show but you don't want to do Patreon or anything like that or buy merch, because hey, look, it's tough all over right now, and I get it. Super fine. There's no expectation around this in any way, shape, or form. All the shows, all the content, all the tutorials, everything will be free. And if all you can do is hit like and share it, I couldn't be more thrilled with that. That is super great. Hit that like button, subscribe, do those fun things. They cost no money, and they help other people find the channel. So there you go. All right. Oh, Gareth, I don't think you want my advice now. Come. I think you know right now that you don't need that. All right. So
no, that's for my Patreon this time.
Sure. Absolutely. I don't think Gareth needs yours either. At any rate, okay. Let's now that with that bit of self-spruiking done, let's oh, there you go. That's a nice little piece of news. Anthony said NashCon tickets go on sale April 1st. I'll put that in my calendar. Good to know. All right, but let's keep on with the news. What else we got?
So the new Harrow, whatever the new season of Underworlds is, it's an Ulgu, and we have a new warband that dropped, and it's Frankenstein.
Yes, it's Frankenstein's. Nope, it's Frankenstein's. That's what it is. It's Frankenstein's.
It's Frankenstein.
Yes, they're Frankenstein's.
We don't know if the mad scientist is there, but we do know that all the monsters are.
There's clearly going to be a mad scientist at the head of this as the leader. Yes, like some mad necromancer scientist, right? But yes, it's Frankenstein's, the plural. That is what this is. I hope every member of the crew got a different big body part, and then the leader just has a giant head. Like he just has a big oversized head.
I don't think that's how this is going to happen, but sure.
All right. Yeah, what do you think? Mars, what do you think of this guy?
I'm not big on a lot of the death stuff or the underband warbands. I might buy quite a few boxes. I like them.
You like him? All right, fair enough. Tom,
yeah.
What's your take on this dude?
He's fine. I mean, what I'll say is this. I'm all for new dead models. Okay? Sure. I'm all for living people in death armies.
I don't think this guy's alive, but sure.
No. I agree. But if we have like a mad scientist, Arc Electro, whatever guy, right? Sure. Like he could be like a techno necromancer.
Sure.
He could be living, and I'm all for exploring what that looks like, right?
Okay. Okay.
So, but if they do that, they need to be like recognizable other body parts. Like this should have looked very much like a green skin arm with like green skin armor or something on it, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
They should have like leaned into the other body part stuff. I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
I feel like you just do that with a paint job, like looking at the arm.
Yeah,
doesn't belong
that's
there.
just this paint job. But you're right. You could like his arm's big enough compared to his other one. You could just make it an orc arm yourself, and that's that's just the paint you bring to it. I agree, Mars. Yeah, I hate it. I don't like it at all. And that's coming from someone who just built an entire army of Frankensteins out of their Sons of Babot. I just the model, he just feels too off kilter to me. Like, I don't know. I have a symmetry requirement sort of thing in my brain, and he isn't that at all. So
I kind of like the glow. Like, I like the glowy eyes, given that this is supposed to be like electrical.
Sure.
By the way, Manzak, I don't know if you know this or not, but I actually have an entire Technomancer faction within my KO that are all like, I have 30 Arco or 20 Arco that are like half robot, half people. I haven't painted them yet, but they're all built and it's all based. So I'm already there with you, buddy.
Yeah, you did that originally because you were trying to cheat in Ghoul Mercenaries, but yes.
I mean, I may have been using it as FEC stuff. That's fine. The reality is, I have them.
Yeah, sure. It's this exact. So, yeah, Ramian asked, is it just this model or the concept? No, concept is awesome. It's just this execution didn't grab me. They could have other parts of the warband that are this kind of experimentation that could be cool. I just don't like. I don't know. You know what this reminds me of? The Rick and Morty episode where they end up in the Mad Max wasteland and Morty gets a giant arm and he becomes like a killer in the Thunderdome.
You just made me love it even more now.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not. Yeah, it's a funny episode. Okay. Anyways, what's next?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about the Meta Watch controversy. Dan's in the chat.
Sure. So I mean, I just wanted to reference this. I'm not trying to kick up something that happened at the end of last week, but I wanted to comment on it, which is to say, not cool on the part of GW there. And for those who don't know what happened, basically, a Meta Watch article went up. It was written by AOS Shorts, and they originally and it used stats that were pulled by Ziggy and Rob, not Honest Wargamer Rob, and the data was then synthesized and put into this sort of Nurgle Meta Watch article, amongst other points that were made. And Dan didn't just recapitulate the stats; he was obviously doing data synthesis and talking about the broader place of the army. And he had the credit down at the bottom to he accredited to Ziggy and Rob in the Stat Center, and that's how the article went up and was published. And then about an hour later, they just removed the credit and just swoop gone. Because apparently they didn't want to reference, the T Sports Network or Honest Wargamer Rob, and that's just a petty, silly thing.
Well, but I mean, it even gets something deeper, which is like in my industry, that's plagiarism.
Well, sure. Look, I mean, the information's out there in public.
It is, but if you're pulling from a source, you need to cite that source. That's just good industry practice. And the reality is that, like, for me, it was very disappointing because it just harkens back to like GW's old history of like questionable borrowing of IP stuff, right? Of taking other people's work. And it frustrated me to see them so blatantly, like, Dan put in a lot of hard work, and to not give the acknowledgement and the credit where it's due.
Yeah, so, I mean,
that's what I would say.
We've talked for a long time about how their artists and sculptors and stuff like that should be credited. There's no reason to think that they shouldn't. It's nonsense. Every other sculpt you buy, if you buy it from any other company, will say painted by this person, sculpted by this person, so on and so forth. But that's a completely separate discussion than this. There is primary data that is collected in a source. People worked very hard on it to put it together. We're going to use a bunch of it tonight in our thing, and it's just it was just a jerk move for no reason other than spite. It was petty and small. That's what it was. Okay? That's all. That's all it is. And I don't like to see it. Adults should be making better decisions. There you go. End of discussion. And by the way, it Streisand affected the whole thing.
Right. It went huge.
Yeah. You just got way louder, by the way. I don't know why. But yes. It would have just been something some people noticed and was like, oh, cool, neat. Nice of them to do that and to see them working together. And it would have been the end of it, and no one would have thought a second passing of it. But of course, we had the Streisand effect, didn't we? And there we are. So it's not only a bad move, in that it doesn't lead to the ends you want. It's also just petty, as I said. So there we go. End of that. Okay. Mars, I won't make you stake out a position on that one. I don't want you to swim into the middle of this, but it's just it was an unnecessary thing.
I found out about a lot of their history because of it, so
sure.
Beforehand, I don't know. It's not really a position. It's easy as you should just cite where you find stuff from.
Yeah,
it's not really hard to do.
Doesn't seem controversial, exactly. Yeah, it's it's pretty standard. All right, Tom, what's next?
Yeah, so we let's talk about something that is exciting, which is the return of Cursed City to Made to Order.
Boom. Yes. Cursed City is back. Made to Order. They've guaranteed that everybody that orders in the window will get a copy. And I wonder if they've changed their source for this, by the way. It'll be interesting to see.
I don't know. Yeah.
And then they said it will actually be full re-releasing later in the year, filling all the made to order orders within additional stuff out in the market, and there will be expansions, and they've promised some cool big expansions for it. So very exciting. So for those people, I'm happy to see this rise from its grave, Altered Beast style. I think a lot of people were excited about this game. It has some really amazing figures. I enjoyed painting all of them. I was lucky enough to get a copy originally. I think it's cool. So yay, good things. That's a good thing. Mars, did you any interest in Cursed City? You had said death doesn't really grab you, and this is certainly a death heavy thing.
I like the models just for kit bashing and stuff. My partner Kelly, she plays Flesh Eater Court, so the Vargolf I had to grab.
Sure.
To get that. I'm looking forward to the expansions just to see what else I can mutilate and turn into something else.
All of my Vargolfs in my Flesh Eater Court's army are the Vargskiers out of this, just modified. Yes, every one of them.
Yeah.
Because it's such a better model.
Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. My question is do I buy another one?
Sure.
I have a complete one, but do I buy another one? That's the real question here. And I just
Why
don't
not?
know.
Yeah, might as well.
As I've been toying around with Deadwalker lists, I need another 10 to round off that first 10, so I have a solid block of 20 there from their Cursed City box. And also, I like the Ogre Zombies. The guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love to have more of those.
They are super cool models. Yeah, sure. They are super cool models. I'm hoping that some of the expansions aren't just for SBG. I'm sure there will be some for Soulblight.
Right.
But if it follows the Blackstone Fortress model, as it certainly was probably intended to, we can expect updates for various armies, right? Some just like how in 40K we got the Man of Iron, who can just be dropped into an AdMech army. He's a sneaky little AI guy who's just yes, I am just a normal robot like the rest of your robots. Beep boop beep, right? But yeah, cool stuff like that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why are you the only one that gets socks?
Why? just looking around the merch store because I didn't know if people wanted socks or not. So I made socks with my logo on it.
Yeah, we all buy socks.
I mean, I don't understand, man.
Look, if people want socks, if people want more socks with more logos, I'll add more socks. If people want whatever you want in the store, I'll add it. Okay, it's fine. I made a swath of new designs over the last week, putting these art assets, old and new, to work, and there you go. So
we need more socks for Christmas time, so you can put different ones in everybody's stocking.
There you go. It's a good call. I'll see what I can do. All right. What's next up on the news roundup?
Fire Slayers and IDK go on pre-order this weekend, and full reviews coming in the next 2 weeks. So I think that means that we probably have the whatever it's called, the NDA being lifted sometime in the next week or so. I'm guessing, just if it follows the pattern that we've normally had. So we'll see on that, which means that we'll get, Man Reed's book and all the other stuff getting covered and reviewed soon. So I am very excited about that. I'm mixed on what I've seen out of Fire Slayers, but I'm excited.
Yeah, we will be doing the reviews of both of those books in the coming 2 weeks. So get excited if you're a fish fan or a fan of tiny naked baby dwarves with mohawks. It's going to be a great 2 weeks for you.
We're doing fish next week, is that right?
Correct. Fish will be first. So it'll be IDK next week, and then naked baby slayer dwarves with mohawks the week after that.
I look forward to seeing all these turtle lists. That's
I don't. Oh yeah. I mean, we'll see. I'm interested to see how this evolves. I suspect that people are going to be. I'm interested to see how Fire Slayers evolve. Let me just say it that way.
Gotcha. You're loud again, by the way, Tom. You should turn yourself down again.
How am I loud again? Like, what changed?
You leaned way away, so your condenser mic is trying to grab all the echo sound and condense it down.
Interesting. Is it still bad if I lean forward like this?
You're not as bad, but I would still turn it down a little. Okay. Anything else in the news roundup?
No, I think that's it.
There you go. That was much better. You're much less loud there. Okay. Awesome. Very good. All right. Well, gentlemen, let's talk about some pick of the week. Mars, you're first up. What's your pick of the week you want to share with everybody?
Obviously, I need to say Mr. Mephisto stuff, but that's just an aside. I obviously have to shout out my best friend. But the real pick is Strength Hammers podcast on YouTube. Chuck Moore, my Man Crush Monday all day. He has some great stuff out there. And I'm tired of hearing his joke about only 3 people watching his stuff. So everybody should go watch it and let him know that's more than 3 people. Because he has some great interviews with some great guests.
I second that. I realized I wasn't subbed to Chuck and immediately corrected that issue. I am now subbed up to Strength Hammer. Well, things happen. Okay, it's a lot going on. I watched one of his most recent videos, realized I wasn't subbed, clicked that button. See how easy it is? It's fun to click buttons. As soon as I realized my error, I corrected it. There we go.
Speaking of which, people should like and subscribe.
That's right. Don't forget to hit those buttons. It's fun. Always hitting buttons is fun. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit share, all those fun things. All right, Tom, what's your picks?
I'm gonna go with AOS Coach. Recently did a video with Mr. West on talking with Adam West, not Adam West, James West. Talking Maggot Can of Nurgle. He went 4-1 at LVO. And I'm a fan of the new Nurgle book. I think it does a lot of things right. I think it's enjoyable to play and play against. And so I would encourage you guys to check it out. Check out Glotkin and his Mortal Men.
Very nice. I will drop that down in the description. Tyler, don't vote against your own interests. Don't be that guy. For my pick of the week, I'm going to shout out our good buddy Scott, the Miniature Maniac, who I hope everybody knows is running a Kickstarter of some very awesome Wood Elf miniatures, some dark Wood Elves. I made a video this last week because he sent them to me in advance, and I painted up one of them. I've actually painted up two of them. They've actually been in the shot for quite a while. They're behind my head. But the so that is linked down below. The campaign is already funded, so you're just effectively purchasing the minis and riding the good old add-on train as additional unlocks and milestones get revealed. But go check that out if you haven't. Link is down in the description. And my video this week is, if you want to see one of the figs close up, that's the one color thing is painting one of the three figures from there. So there you go. I also painted the warrior, which you'll see in coming weeks in a video. All right. So with that out of the way, gentlemen, let's talk about a little hobby time.
Yeah.
Mars, what have you been working on, man? What's on your hobby table? What you been painting? What you been doing?
I'm currently painting 15 Hellstriders, and I'm building Bellicor for a list to toy with.
I support all of this.
Yeah, I have my list idea is just screwing over heroes. And I want to just lean heavy into it with Bellicor and a Soul Feaster. And what else do I have in it? The Hellstriders, obviously, with the -1 to hit on top of it. Mm-hmm. It's just real nasty.
Nice.
I think. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, I have to build and paint it before I put it on the table.
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously. Real nasty and Slaanesh don't go together right now in any other than aesthetically. Yeah. But Hellstriders, as we'll see later, are one of my picks. I support this fully. Absolutely, they are a bright spot in the clouds for sure. Nice. Tom, what have you been working on? A whole bunch of stuff you've been painting, right?
In my direct kind of hobby work, I am finishing up my first commission I'm doing. I don't know if you guys can see this very well.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of the I'm doing 40 Splintered Fang for one of my friends in Vince's club, and I'm excited to get those things done and sent off in the mail. And then I'm going to turn my attention to finishing up my Adepticon list because it is not painted yet. So that kind of needs to be done. And then I am in my new place. I am building bookshelves. Ta-da! So I've reorganized my space, and so I'm actually going to have a more kind of established, nicer video recording space. So
okay.
I am looking forward to getting that done, but that involves like building bookshelves and doing all the things and setting all the space up.
Okay, gotcha. So people have said you're quiet, Mars. So Tom, turn yourself down more, and Mars, make sure you lean into your mic.
Okay.
Turn myself down because you're going to turn the master audio up. Is that
correct? Yes, and if I just turn it up, you'll blow everybody away. That's exactly right. Because you're better. Because you're both on the same audio input. There you go. Better.
Okay.
Man.
All right. Tell me if Tom's too quiet, everyone. But I given Tom that your voice, I'm sure you'll carry.
I can just raise the volume.
Sure. I'm not too worried. Everybody tell me if Tom is too quiet. He sounds fine to me, but again, I have headphones on, so it's hard to always tell. All right. Fantastic. For myself, I am still finishing my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. He's almost done. There's the dragon basically done. Here's the rider done. There he is. And, of course, because he's a big giant dude, we've got to have a big scenic base for him. And so I'm just finishing up that base, actually. There's just a little bit more work to do on that. And this guy will be ready to rock and roll. Maybe another hour on the base, and that's ready to go. And then we just put him all together. So he's almost done. It was this close to getting him. Okay, yeah, Tom, they said you're a little low now, so you can come back up a little bit.
I just adjusted it back up.
Hey, there you go. Now you sound good. I did a recording before this, and everything sounded fine. But hey, here we go. It's the difference between
amazing how that works.
How the recording goes versus how it goes out. Okay. So, but yeah, I'm excited to have this guy done. And then my next piece is to go and touch all the Golden Demon entries. Because guess what, folks? It's only like 20 days until Adepticon. How about that?
Don't say that.
Oh,
Don't
wow.
say that. I have like 60 models that I have to paint.
We are under 3 weeks away. That's right.
Oof.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you hear the sound of the clock ticking, Tom? Tick, tick, tick,
It'll be fine. They're ghosts. It'll be fine.
So I hope everybody's going to get that. Is any painting projects, whether that be for Golden Demon or painting for an army or for a tourney, for Adepticon, if you're going to be there. I so look forward to seeing everybody in just a few weeks. I am beyond excited for this. By the way, I saw that I think a spot opened up in one of my classes. So if somebody was looking to take a class, like they were all sold out, but then one opened because I assume somebody probably canceled and couldn't come. So, hey, at least when I looked before the show, there was one open spot in one class. So if you were wanting to take a class, there it is. Yes, as Nicholas said, 3 models a day, Tom. That's all you got to average, just 3 models a day. It's totally doable.
Totally doable. And they're ghosts.
We do 60 in 3 days.
I'll take Saturday and just get them done.
There you go.
There you go.
I like it.
There's going to be that nice, bright, the yellow-green.
Yeah.
That you did? Yeah, I loved it.
I mean, a lot of that's airbrush work. So, and then it'll be fine. Like, it'll be
fine. All your skills. It's just beautiful. It was a great army. If nobody saw it yet, they need to find Tom and see it. It's so cool looking.
Well,
we believe in you, Tom.
All the ghosts for Adepticon. I decided Nagash is for the birds. Just gonna get rid of him and just go in full Monty on the ghosts.
Reasonable. Just swarm. The ghost swarm. Bodies do seem to be one of the viable anti-shooting strategies. So I don't know what shooting shoots with you, that's for sure. There's no quality targets.
No, there aren't. Not only are there, like, and if there are, I can just have them not on the board turn 1. So there's that.
There you go.
Like, I get to play my own game, and they don't get to play the game that I'm playing. So
that's always the goal. All right.
Seems like a good place in the meta.
Well, speaking of winning in unusual ways, and or banging your head up against a wall, or whatever we want to say, let's use that to transition over to tonight's main topic, which is Slaanesh, the good and the bad. Okay. So, let's do a brief history here first. I think most people know this, but we'll just be quick. Slaanesh has an interesting history in AOS. Obviously, when the edition launched, what we all came to learn was that Slaanesh herself has been captured and is currently imprisoned by the elf deities in chains. And the hosts, the many myriad hosts of Slaanesh are racing around the mortal realms trying to figure out where their god is imprisoned. Slaanesh was already kind of on a rise before the book came out, because at that time the meta was such that it could just kind of, it was the right meta for what Slaanesh had to start. You saw it start to tick up in its performance. The initial book came out and it was exceedingly powerful in the meta it found itself in, which was a melee heavy meta. If you dropped the original Slaanesh book tomorrow into the current meta, it wouldn't perform anywhere near where it did before. It would get clobbered.
It would get shot off the table.
Yeah, correct. It's in its original form, it was brutal and one-sided often, but it benefited from the fact that nobody had guns. They just didn't exist.
Well, it had like 70 some wounds, right? Like in its initial incarnation.
Usually, you were usually playing lists between 70 and 85 wounds. Yes.
Right, and so like your one drops would be like, we're pick it all up.
Right.
Like,
correct. Pick up your toys, mate. So the yeah, like the other thing that Slaanesh always had as a hard counter, by the by, was high armor. But in that original meta, there was no high armor and there was no shooting. So when it hit the 2019 meta and found neither of its hard counters, like it was scissors coming into a world bereft of rocks. It was just paper as far as the eye could see, right? And so it established this ridiculous win rate, got repeatedly nerfed, like 4 or 5 times it was nerfed, basically, until eventually it just got a new book. It is still a relatively new book, having come out not long before 3.0 in the great span of things. And the new book was a very different experience from the old book. And the meta of the new book, not only was it a lot perhaps weaker, but it was also just different. It also suddenly launched into a meta that was now very hostile to it, right? Because there was a lot of shooting. And as 3.0 ticked over, we did, in fact, enter a very high armor meta, right? It's just, it didn't find itself really in a great place, and it was, of course, much weaker. And its points, when the book first launched, seemed like, whoa, these are really high. And so we all said, but it's okay. They've said points are going up for 3.0. So we're just priced ahead. You know, we knew 3.0 was on the horizon. We're just pointed for 3.0. And then 3.0 came out, and in fact, no.
20%. 20%. I've been banging this drum for a year.
I don't think they've heard you.
They haven't, or I think they probably have, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, and then the points went up again, and that brings us more or less to that brings us more or less to the modern day, to the 3.0/3.1 meta, which is what we're going to talk about today. But I do want to talk about the good and the bad of this, because I think it is easy to doomsay on this book, but as Slaanesh is all about taking pleasure from pain, we must search here for the good. Somebody on Twitter, and I'll try to see if I can figure out who it was real quick, but it was the sharpest comment that I absolutely loved. Here we go. It was Hamsfan. Hamsfan said, "We had the sadism book. We are now enjoying the masochism book." And I have never heard. That is the more succinct version of the long story I just told of its history. Right?
Yeah.
The first book was incredibly punishing to your opponent. They felt like they don't even know why they were playing the game. This book is punishing to you, and you don't even know why you are playing the game. It's great.
I'm just saying, we have so many more acronyms to explore.
Sure. There's other words. Yeah, there's other letters in that general thing. Yeah, it's true.
I'm excited for the new books.
It would have been what I've been calling for, Tom, the whole time. If you remember, for years I've been on that train calling for that.
I know you've been calling for leather daddies, and someday, my friend, someday they'll be here.
I thought I'd taken some of the Nurgle guys and turned them into leather daddies when I first heard him talk about it.
There you go.
Real excited.
Here's the funny thing. I've been painting up these guys, the Splintered Fang, and like they have the leather pants with like the holes in them.
Yeah.
And the one with the net has assless chaps. Like those are a thing. Like, see those beefcakes?
Mm-hmm. Again, technically all chaps are, as a matter of fact.
Indeed. But my point being, the models are out there, folks. For those that want the army, the models are out there.
Sure.
This just proves Splinter Fang are dedicated to Slaanesh, like I said when they first released, and nobody believed me.
I mean, they are a bunch of snake worshippers.
Yeah. I like it. I think you're dead on. I think we've uncovered a conspiracy here, and I buy this completely. Okay. Let's get to a little summary action here. Headline: Slaanesh is the worst performer of the new books.
Yes.
Exactly. This isn't a thing up for debate. I state it factually because it is factually provable. There is now, you can make an argument that Cruel Boys, who often find themselves in the same area, would also count. They tend to overperform just slightly, but frankly, it's within the margin of error. And that's only a third of a book. And somehow the other two in there are performing really well. Yes, I'm including Bone Splitters. They've been on a tear. So I don't know what's going on there. But anywho, that is simply a factually truth statement that it finds itself in a cohort of largely old, out-of-date books that share the Sullen 6 or the low-end performers here. But let's start with what's good. And Mars, I want you've piloted Slaanesh a lot, including at tournaments recently under the new book. So I want to see if you agree with my take here. What's good? There is a pretty decent mobility to the book. You've got some run and charge, some run and shoot. You have some good movement speeds. Obviously, you lack flying for most pieces. There's a few exceptions. But you've got some good mobility, especially if you have like Lurid Haze, that kind of thing, and Invaders, where you can be off board and then coming in an ambush. Or if you're in Godseekers where you're +1 to charge. As we all know, even +1 to charge makes a huge difference, especially in a summoning army. Which leads to point number 2. They have very strong summoning. It is pinned to a very bad mechanic, but it is strong. We cannot understate that. It is a super strong mechanic. They have a solid core allegiance ability in their ability to double tap on 6s, melee only, but it is that is a good ability. Like double tap on 6s, army wide, and in fact you can triple tap on basically one unit in the game. But I'm
a little disappointed with that rule, but yeah.
Yes, basically one unit in the army can access that sub rule, so we're just going to say it's basically double taps.
Yeah.
And they do have some medium quality shooting options. It's there, unlike a lot of other chaos. They find themselves with some what I would call medium to decent shooting. There are things that put out range.
Like when I played against it at Brewhammer, I was pleasantly surprised by the output of Bliss Barbs. Like now, so the irony is that I know that you said it's moderate, but Vince, we were doing a comparison.
Yeah.
Between Bliss Barbs and the new Oryx, like the new Auric Hearthguard, which are the shooter dwarves, like the only ranged unit in the dwarves. And 10 Bliss Barb come out more favorably, generally, than 10 dwarves.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that kind of thing when we get to that review, but there are some circumstances there, but sure.
Yeah, certainly.
The Bliss Barbs constantly, it's either I over expect from them after they do really good for a few games and then they just kind of meh, or or they do amazing when I'm like, oh, don't worry about these Bliss Barbs. They're not going to do anything to you, really. They suck. Don't worry about them. And then my opponent's like, okay, and then I just blow a whole unit off the board. There's no in between ever with them. It seems they're either doing work for you or they're just dead in the water.
Yeah, they're a really interesting unit, and we're going to get into the specific units, but I don't want to I think shooting almost it's not always.
Let's be very clear. They're not the answer to the army.
Yeah, you're not going to win on the back of them, but I think shooting is going to often, not always, but often be part of your strategy. It just isn't shooting like we see shooting defining the meta now. And by the way, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't want more long strikes, salamanders, sentinels in the world. Okay.
Right.
I don't want that. Martin, yes, it should be. I'll look and see what's going on after the show, but yes, it certainly should be.
Can I ask a question? Maybe we'll get to this we'll wait on it. We'll wait. Because I wonder if one small wording change in allegiance abilities could actually turn this army, not in a way we want it to, but I wonder if it could fix some of the problems.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about the future. Yeah, we're going to talk about the future and what could we potentially change.
Yeah.
What's a challenge? So what why is this army performing so poorly? Okay. And to me, the answer is summed up in the following points. So again, I'll both your feedback. 1, low damage. For an army that was the sort of definition of damage during the 2019 melee cycle, honestly, most of the time it hits like a feather now. And the so the damage is pretty low overall, especially in a meta that has become ramped up on crazy high damage, right? And look, I mean, I don't think you're ever going to have Mega Boss on Maw Crusher type damage. That's not what I think we're looking at here. But I mean, we're not anywhere close to that. That's not a threat here. Most of the units in this army are very low damage. Few tricks, actually. Like, it plays pretty straightforward Warhammer, actually. It doesn't have the sort of tricks or exploits or things like that a lot of armies have that they can utilize to kind of pull themselves out of a downward swing, other than the summoning, right? Which can be controlled by a smart opponent. They have extremely low durability and defense. Like, there are a few tough units in the army. A few. But for the most part, we're talking about an army of, like, 5-up saves. That's kind of what the situation is here.
I mean, what you've just said is they don't have a hammer and they don't have an anvil.
Correct.
Yeah. Which it in the first book with the low durability and defense, their old locust, which everybody hated, is what made them live to actually hit things, because the glass jaw problem. And they took that away, and then now not only do we not have defense, everybody's like ramped up in the armor, so our low numbers on damage, like, it's not doing anything for us anymore.
Right.
But I think the locust change and the defense really paired well in sinking their threat.
I agree. And I think, ironically, the locust is rather weak, especially in the current meta. Now, this could change over time. So everybody's clear, the locust right now, what it does is your demon heroes, effectively, who broadcast the locust, they can roll a die, and on a 4-up, they can stop the unit they're fighting from piling in, which is not a bad effect. Like, stopping pile-ins, not a bad effect. No. Right? Because people will look at that and go, yeah, but, Slobbity Bilepiper does that, and everybody rates him highly. The net launcher does that on the shark, and everybody rates that highly. And my answer is, though that's all true, but the net launcher does it on the same 4-up effectively, though it could be on a 3-up. And obviously the greater demons are on a 3-up.
Yeah. Which
you're generally never going to have, because you generally don't take the greater demons often, with maybe a few exceptions. But the net launcher's doing it at range, not in melee, where, like, if you miss this roll, then you're in for a world of pain, right?
No, I was playing against Nurgle with their plague bearers.
Yeah,
had a block of 30 of them, stopped them from piling in for 2 turns. I was able to live from it. The moment I failed that roll, my greater demon, the Keeper of Secrets, was dead.
Right, exactly. You have to risk so much to get it off, because you're putting yourself directly in harm's way. Whereas somebody like Slobbity can just do it. First of all, there's no roll. They just toot on the magic flute, and it happens. But it's also not the only thing that Slobbity can do, right? He has 2 other toot songs he can play. Yeah. So if stopping piling in isn't useful, which just the concept of it is often not useful in the current meta, because you're often dealing with extremely small, elite, hard-hitting units or monster heroes or stuff like that, right? Like, there's whole armies against which that locust literally does nothing. Like, 0. It just actually can have no effect, because everything in the army is an army of 1. Right. If they completed the charge, they can hit you, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe ostensibly it keeps them from piling around you toward an objective. So, like, I'm not saying it doesn't maybe do something on the fringes. I'm aware of these sorts of tactical things as someone who used the pile-in hopefully as much as I can. But what I'm saying is, in the standard case, it's not doing what it's intended to do, right? Which is keep the unit alive to some degree. And the final point is, the points are still really high. They just are. Yep. And you're paying for the summoning, because it's not unreasonable that if you lean into an army that's sort of built on summoning, right? Like, that is targeted to ramp up the depravity points.
Which is what Sousa did, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. it wouldn't be. Now, I'll say, though, Sousa did have that capability, but that's not the only thing he relied on. And he often didn't need to, like, focus on the summoning to win games. Okay? But nonetheless, if you lean into this, and that's kind of your core area of focus, you can summon something like, let's be extremely conservative and say summon 12 to 1,600 points over the course of the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot. That's like too much.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're summoning in kind of not great stuff often. Like things that aren't, like it's throwing good money after bad to a degree. But because you even have that capability, suddenly all the points had to shoot way through the roof to compensate for that. Right?
Yeah.
And I think I've said it before, and I still think it's true, months and months on, that the summoning was the failure of the design of this book. This book is badly designed. Like, I'll just state that straight out. I'm not even talking about power level. I don't care about that. It could be like the most broke thing in the meta. It could be the worst thing in the meta. It's badly designed. But the summoning mechanic is, again, just like with Sons of Behemoth, they had this one mechanic, and it's so warped, it twisted everything else about the book. Right? Because it suddenly became the lever that everything had to turn on. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You put your army down, and you're just like, my God, I don't feel like I have an army compared to my opponent. Because of the nature of the points. Mm-hmm. Even if you're using the cheap units. Yeah. You line up against even like a medium wound army. Like, have you? I'm sure you've played against Soulblight Gravelords with your Slaanesh, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Exactly. When I line up against Soulblight, I'm just like, are we playing the same game? Did you get an extra 1,000 points? This is not. I've got like 20 people over here.
Yeah, I'm not fielding an army. I'm fielding like a little battalion,
warband.
Maybe.
Yeah,
warband.
Right.
It's not an army.
I'm looking across the board, and I'm just like seeing just swarms of troops still supported by heroes. Every one of these things is scary, right? And I'm like, I don't know what to do with any of this. It's a problem. So I just think that, like, I'll tell you right now, this is jumping ahead, but I'm just going to say this before we leave this section. If I could just wave a magic wand, I would like crush summoning down to almost nothing. I would just, in fact, perfect world, I would just eliminate it from the freaking book. I would just cut it out and bring the points down to something reasonable. But I know that chaos armies have to have summoning, apparently. So fine, I would weaken it way, way, way down, so these points could come down out of the stratosphere into something reasonable. But I mean, I would just hit it so hard, so you can summon like a thing. Cool. By the way, on just another thing, I don't know if you ran into this, Mars, but going to a tournament with Slaanesh is like pretty annoying because you have to bring so much extra crap.
Yeah, I had to bring an extra 30 demonettes, a whole nother chariot, and just in case I needed it. And like, I don't want to carry all that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You're bringing like a whole second army as just backup, so you can summon like, oh boy. All right, Mars, did I miss anything here on the summary? Do you think I was fair on the good, the bad? What's a challenge? What
I've leaned into is mostly the mobility, which is the good part, and the summoning, because that's what you got to work with. My biggest problem with the army now compared to the old book is I miss being a glass cannon. I miss being able to do damage and like not being hit and being able to find ways to survive. And yeah, the points are still disgustingly high.
Yeah. It's funny too, because this army was always propped up by like the various and sundry generic artifacts that have existed over time, right? So whether it was like the artifacts that could make you fly or give you a 4-up against mortals or whatever, like it's just, or the old amulet of destiny, like constantly this army has been trying to be propped up by whatever generic stuff is out there. It's the first move for Slaanesh is quick. Anywhere else but this book, there's got to be something out here.
I missed that cloak that let you fly.
Yeah,
Throw that
I
on
did.
the keeper. Oh, it was fun.
We all do. Tom, anything I missed?
No, I think it's good.
Okay. Cool. All right, let's look at some stats. Now, all of these stats are courtesy of Ziggy, Rob, and the T-Sports Stats Center. Thank you very much to the entire team, to the entire stats team over at the T-Sports Network. Ziggy, Rob, and the crew are all awesome. I cannot explain, as somebody who works with data analytics on a regular basis for my professional career, I cannot explain how much I tip my hat to you, to all of you, for the incredible, wonderful work you did here in Power BI, of accumulating all this data, making it very transparent and easy to work with. So thank you. And the link is down below for the Stats Center on the Honest Wargamer Network. And so if you want to see any of these stats, because there is a lot more that I don't have here, you can slice, dice, and julienne fry this. They have got you covered. So if you want to see any more, go to that link, check it out. Thank you very much, Ziggy, Rob, and everybody. Okay. So with that out of the way, let's talk about... let's just start with win rate, shall we? Let's keep this very simple.
Sure.
Overall win rate, I did not exclude mirror matches. I could have, because they're technically probably getting bumped from mirror matches, since that brings it to 50-50, right? But I didn't exclude them. Their win rate is 39%, making them tied with Skaven for the fourth worst performing army in the meta, as defined by win rate. Now, the Bone Splitters number we're actually going to ignore, because Bone Splitters is really weird. It's a statistical outlier. You shouldn't trust any of the Bone Splitter numbers in here, because just up to the point where these stats were recorded, as of, like, I pulled them earlier in the week, like before they'd entered last week's data in, where a bunch of Bone Splitter results actually came back really good. The problem is the Bone Splitters results are so few, like there was so few people playing them, that the stats were really uneven. Like new results would cause them to jump all over the place, right? There just wasn't enough matches. So they had fallen below statistical significance. Now, not true for Gitz, Beasts, Skaven, Slaanesh, Khorne, Nighthaunt. Like they had enough. And so when you look here, what you see is Gitz, old book. Beasts, old book. Skaven, old book. Khorne, old book. Nighthaunt, old book. Right. Now again, Cruel Boys, relatively newer book, so okay, that we could do a different show on them and why. That's probably worth the same discussion. But then Sylvaneth, Flesh Eater Courts, right? Old. So like we got a lot of old books in here. Slaanesh is really the newest book that's down in this thing. And to be clear, it is falling outside of even the fat middle.
Yep.
Right? The like extremely generous 40 to 60% that frankly we shouldn't find acceptable anymore. That we should be tuned enough now that we're 45 to 55. Right? So, you know, like that's not great. Just starting there. That's not great.
Not a great start.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say here except ouch.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. My friend John can't complain about how much Slaanesh is better than Skaven now, but that's about it.
Brothers in losing. That's right. What to make this real, what it would mean is that at a tournament, the most common Slaanesh result, and in fact this is true because they have a slide on this. I didn't grab this graphic, but the most common Slaanesh result is going 2 and 3.
Woo! Oh,
right. Like if you look at the curve as to how people finish, the Slaanesh 2 and 3, or in other words, winning 2 out of your 5 games, is way higher than the benchmark. You understand what I mean? Like that's bad.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to be higher than the benchmark on that column. Okay.
That's rough.
Yes. And in fact, they're hitting a little bit under that. Like enough people are only going 1 and 4 that they're even dragging it down below that, right? That means that side of it is slightly winning. Okay. It's important to ask, what is our faction representation? And, yep, that's not great either. 1.2%. Not a lot of people still playing it. That right there tells you a lot.
That's, here's some perspective. It's almost half of the number of Fire Slayer players in the meta. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Soak in.
Yep.
That's
you
crazy.
will see 2 Fire Slayer players for every 1 Slaanesh player on average. Now, that said, at Brewhammer, out of 50 people, we had 2 Slaanesh players.
No Fire Slayers, right?
No Fire Slayers.
Yeah, I don't think there was a Fire Slayer there.
There was.
Yeah, your individual meta may vary, as always.
Because our area has a better taste in an army. It's fine.
Clearly.
You don't like naked babies?
No.
I can confidently say no to that without hesitation.
No. Their concept I like. I like their story and everything. The model range, it doesn't do it.
They all, as your weekly confirmed, the new cover for the Fire Slayer book is in fact new art. It's just because the Fire Slayers all look the same that it looks like the old cover.
Yeah. The issue here, as Assistant Ref quite wisely pointed out, the only things with a lower meta representation right now aren't actually full books. They're just subsections of a different book. Like, you understand what I mean? Like, that's only one of the 4 armies in that book.
Yeah.
So, of course, that book, that book is, it'd be like dividing up into like invaders or Godseekers or whatever, right? Of course, it would fall even farther.
Yep.
Now, it is useful to separate Auric war clans because they are so different in how they play.
Yes, they are.
Okay. So, also not great. People have just largely left this army behind. I mean, I think a lot of people who love it have put it up on the shelf. A lot of...
Maybe they never caught the memo that Shelve Slaanesh ended.
Right.
That's probably what happened.
I said it like for 2 weeks, and that was it. It stuck for 2.5 years.
And then everybody just abandoned all their models, just all of them.
Yeah, we need to start telling everybody for the next 2 weeks to bring them back out, and we'll see that number rise.
There we go. All right. Sure. Well, hopefully we'll give some people some ideas on how to get out of there, because we are going to talk about, like I said, we're going to get to some. What does the path to victory here looks like? I'm hopeful that maybe we get some people to go put some armies on the table. But I'm going to be realistic about it. So there we go. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm going to be honest, but I do still love the army. Tourneys in winning position. Oh, I love this chart. Subcredit here goes to the Falcon from the 40K Stats Center, who created this measurement, what's called T-Whip. And this is something used in 40K quite a bit. T-Whip means tourneys in winning position. And what you have to do to be to get onto this chart is be 4-0 going into round 5.
Oh.
Okay. That means you're in a winning position to go 5-0.
Yeah. You don't have to win the final game, but you could.
Yes. Exactly. You could. So you are in a winning position. You haven't submarined for your 4-1, right? By like losing the first game and then, fighting your way back up. You've went 1, 2, 3, 4, victory, 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 right? Win, 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 win. That's tournament and winning position. Okay. In the tournaments in winning position, Slaanesh finds itself at the absolute bottom of the barrel. It rounds up to be tied with Flesh Eater Courts and Gloomspite Gits, who are all up to 0.4%, though it in fact has the lowest of all of them if you de-round those numbers. So 0.4%. Yes. Yeah.
We're the best. That's what it is.
Dan, it's not the share of 4-0 results. It's the share of how many times in round 4 you were 4-0. Right? So, like, effectively, there's a difference between the 4+ wins, because you could have lost in round 1 and then got your 4 wins and still get on the 4+ wins chart, but you wouldn't get on this chart, right? You have to have only victories before round 5 to get on this chart, to get in the T-Whip. Okay.
And it's super telling.
Yes. The ratio, by the way, the one on the right side, the T-Whip ratio is even worse, although there we do slightly outperform Flesh Eater Courts and Gloomspite gets. That just factors in sort of overall meta representation into it as a ratio. But it's still not great. What you want is a T-Whip ratio of 1. That means you're like sort of what you would expect, yeah. So like things that are up above that are overperforming, right? Things that are under that are underperforming. Okay.
You know what I love about this chart? Kharadron Overlords isn't even on it.
There's another chart with them on. Don't worry, it's my favorite one.
KO isn't even on this chart.
Yeah, because they, in no set of results, the reason this isn't every army is because in no set of results were they in a tournament in winning position. By the way, that 0.4 is 1. That's what that actually represents.
Right.
1.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they didn't use NashCon. They didn't use NashCon as a data set because of the weights.
Correct.
Yeah. Otherwise, KO would be down there too.
You'd have your 1 down there. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Win rate versus opposition faction. Again, please discount here Big Wop, because there's only one matchup and the Slaanesh player won. So good job. All the rest of these have actual numbers of results. In the Kharadron Overlords match, I think I know it's 0%, but there actually just wasn't any matchups. So that doesn't mean we beat them or we've lost them every time. It just meant the two forces actually never played against each other in the entire data set.
That's not the story I'm telling people when we get off this.
Sure. So this is how often Slaanesh has won versus the opposition faction, right? Yeah. And it's actually kind of interesting here of like
KO is king.
Yeah, again, they never played them.
No, they did. They just can't win. It is impossible to win with Slaanesh against KO. That's what this chart tells me.
Clearly what we should take from this, yes.
Yep.
It is interesting to see where they're overperforming, right? So like where does Slaanesh overperform? Where does it do strong?
Multi-wound, low armor models.
It's not even just multi-wound, but it's like massive. Because remember, multi-wound doesn't matter anymore, right? It's just number of units. Because you kill a dude, that unit becomes depraved, right? Yeah. So let's look at it. Beasts of Chaos, Cities of Sigmar, Gloomspite gets Cruel Boys. Something that often these factions have in common is they have high numbers of units. Okay. Yeah. I would also point out that Beasts, Gloomspite, and Cruel Boys are also other underperforming armies, right? Sort of in the low tier. Cities isn't. Cities is pretty safely in the middle. But like their allegiance ability of the stopping pile-in can pay the most dividends. They have the most units to harvest depravity from, right? That are also often, as you said, low armor units, right? You got a lot of like 5-up, 6-up saves in these other units. Your shooting can have sort of maximal impact. You can spread depravity and still be victorious, right? Because you're still actually making real headway against the enemy force. Okay?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just an interesting... I thought this was really interesting because it's those armies, not only are they similarly weak, but they also have a sort of set of foundational, I don't know, principles, logic, functions that actually play into the strengths of Slaanesh. Yeah. Right. So I thought that was really interesting. Obviously, a lot of things they do pretty poorly against, even in the low count. So, you know, Blades of Khorne, like if you look at other sort of maybe factions that aren't super strong, but they don't do great against, Skaven, Blades of Khorne, right? None of this is too surprising. And then there are the armies that really, really, really kick their teeth in. Seraphon just takes Slaanesh at the cleaners. As someone who's played Seraphon with my Slaanesh, I can say that sounds about right to me. It's like that is a rough matchup. Soulblight Gravelords again down at like 19%. Sylvaneth, there wasn't a ton of matches, but again, Sylvaneth just seemed to have the right answer here. And Idoneth Deepkin. Again, Idoneth Deepkin is sort of a nightmare army for Slaanesh, who needs to rely on their shooting to get that depravity farm. And Idoneth can obviously just go, nah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Idoneth versus Slaanesh is kind of like Slaanesh but good versus Slaanesh.
Accurate.
Not inaccurate. Not inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on this chart jump out at you? What else grabs your attention?
45% versus OBR I think is an interesting number.
It is surprising. Like they're winning, but not by much. I have to assume that's the mobility keeping Slaanesh in the game there, right? Because OCR is a pretty slow army. Whereas, truly you can outmaneuver them. I mean, Slaanesh is not the fastest army in the meta. It's not even close. But it's got some speed under it. And it certainly outmaneuvers OCR, which is one of the slowest armies in the meta, really.
You wanted to know what I want more information on?
Yeah, sure.
What's up with Khorne?
Why is Khorne kicking the crap out of Slaanesh?
Khorne is dominating. Yeah. Like Khorne, who has a very low win rate, in general, sees Slaanesh and it's like, yeah, I got this.
Do you want to know the answer?
75%. It's because they have lots of junk attacks.
They make lots of attacks. Their units tend to be highly destructive to other low armor things, like picture Bloodthirster type stuff popping off.
They're great grinders. Yeah.
Cleaning the clock out of Slaanesh. You can't withstand that kind of mortal wound PBAOE. But at a deeper level, Tom, consider the two allegiance abilities. Their allegiance ability is the dark mirror of Slaanesh's. Yeah. And if both people are playing to try to get their allegiance ability, Khorne wins. Okay? Because with Slaanesh, you're trying to injure units but not kill them. Khorne is trying to kill units, not injure them. Okay? And so, quite naturally, their allegiance ability wins out in that direct matchup, right? Because it turns out that removing enemy units actually pretty important on the path to victory. Yes.
Yeah, way better than just putting damage on them.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you accidentally overkill a unit, like if you do too good, right? Like, I actually, as a Slaanesh player, I actually removed the threat. Right, or whatever it was, you get nothing, and they get their point.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go. All right, so that's the win rates versus opposition faction. I thought it was interesting. A lot of fun stuff there. I am legitimately shocked that Sons of Behemoth only have a 44% win rate against Slaanesh. That was the most surprising thing to me, because one of the stats that's on here that I didn't bring into this presentation, but it is on the table, is what's the most common faction that they lose against? You understand what I'm saying? Like, what is your most common loss? And Sons of Behemoth are by far and away the most common loss for Slaanesh. Like, they're at the top of the chart.
I could see that.
Yeah.
At Brewhammer, I had to play against two different armies of Sons of Behemoth, and it was a rough fight the whole way. But
yeah, I mean, just because with the low DPS problem, or the low damage problem of Slaanesh, it's hard to pass that DPS check, right? You got to really work it. Okay.
Focus firing with literally everything,
right?
One at a time, just hope one hit.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I said I think shooting has to be some part of the mix, because sometimes you need to, sometimes peppering around for depravity just isn't the right answer. Sometimes you've got to focus fire. And I think some amount of shooting is a good, is a good strategy on the overall sort of plan, because then sometimes you can pepper, sometimes you can focus. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Tom froze. We'll see if he comes back. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. Oop. Sorry. Okay, so let's get into with the stats done. Okay, let's transition here into the good. I want to talk about the good stuff. Okay. By the way, if it's if it's not on this list, assume that like it's. We can talk about what's bad, but a lot is the answer there. But okay.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what's good. And I divided this into heroes and units, Mars, right? Okay. My list of good right now is what you see here. This is what I rate in the heroes section, with maybe a couple honorable mentions that I didn't put on the slide, but we'll get there. So Sigvald, who I think is no disagreement, legitimately good unit. That's it. That's all I'll say. I love him.
Yeah,
he's great. Tom, you're at a different angle now.
Yeah,
your other camera turned on. He'll figure it out in a second. I love Sigvald. I'm glad he has super big shoulder pads, because his shoulders must be tired from carrying the whole army all day.
Yep, definitely.
The contorted epitome, who I think, even though she was nerfed, still can be good, and still is an interesting unit that can actually, like, being able to reroll casts is still powerful, and can give you some interesting magical capability. Sinessa, the magic, the ranged magic-y one, for those who aren't as familiar with the army, not the melee fighty one that's terrible. Sinessa's cheaper. Sinessa's only 9 wounds, so she can still benefit from like cover and lookout sir and all that kind of stuff. Her spell is actually quite good, especially against certain, a lot of other threats that are out there, sort of high mobility threats. When she can Pavine of Slaanesh them from quite a long distance away, and get some decent damage on them. It's actually a pretty good source of mortal wounds in the army, which is rare. And then the Bladebringer on, pick your chariot. I use the Exalted Chariot picture here, but it doesn't have to be. Great carrier for the Arcane Tome, because of just the crazy high number of attacks. Give her Flaming Weapon, send her in with like 30 attacks, just choppy, going ham with 2 damage attacks, right?
And then the mortal wound just on the charge and the start of combat where they could do. Oh, it's delicious.
Absolutely. My honorable mention I didn't put on the slide, but I do still have a love for, would be the Mask, who I think has a place. I love the Mask so much. Part of her problem is that she's ostensibly like a pinning unit. That's what she's really good at. She's very fast,
right?
Like super crazy mobile, in the way that not only can she run and charge and fly when she piles in and stuff, but she such a small base. She can trigger the no pile in thing. The problem is there's a lot of units now that hit so hard, and the units are so small. Her value has diminished to some degree, right? Like, if your enemy is playing dragons and fulminators, it's like, okay. I don't know what you're pinning, right?
Yep.
This is the good. In the current book, with the current points, high as they are, I think these all meet the bar of good.
Sure.
With Sigvald honestly being great.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd throw the Soul Feaster in there mostly. Just some utility that she could help bring to your army to help debuff and let you guys live a little bit longer is nice, but it depends on your matchups, because things with 10 bravery or 9 even, it's not gonna help. But if you're playing against anything lower than that, you got a good chance of debuffing their heroes to not kill your guys. So
yeah, and picking up a few extra depravity in the mix of that, right? Which is nice. The Soul Feaster is so interesting. So for those who aren't familiar, the Soul Feaster is the Forge World Keeper of Secrets, the one with all the whippy tendrils coming back out of her head. Great model. I have one. She's kind of out of sight, but she's like right there. And the issue with it's so funny because the Soul Feaster doesn't have the pile in twice command ability, right? Which in the old world, like pre 3.0, you were like, terrible, don't want her, right? Because the command ability was so good. It was what made the unit worth it. Now that the updated version of the command ability is so bad, right, that that honestly I don't miss it. On the Soul Feaster, I'd rather save the points because she's like 35 points cheaper. Is that right? Off the top of my head?
Yeah.
So, because I think she's 385 versus 420.
420.
Right? Yeah.
420. Yeah.
Yeah. How could I forget that that's the number? Because you probably need to celebrate that time of day to consider running a regular Keeper of Secrets in your starting army. But don't. All right. But yeah, I think the Soul Feaster could be another one. Mars. Do you want to talk about Gludos? We've got some people in the chat shouting out Gludos. I'm gonna be honest. At his current points cost, I don't rate him. But I'm interested for your take on him because you ran Gludos at Brewhammer.
Yeah, I think he's kind of depends on how you want to run your army. Obviously, if you're doing mortals heavy like I did there, I think he's great, invaluable because he keeps up with the army. The bonuses he gives to your Hedonite mortals are great with not having to worry about battle shock. And then the 12 inches of -1 to hit is just nice. You pair that with the Soul Feaster -1 to hit, you negate them negating your -1 right there. And then Jay with the Hellstriders, I'm trying to list with Glutos, the Soul Feaster, and then the Whippy Hellstriders just to make sure there's no way they could ever get their to hit back up. It's pretty nice. I think he's definitely worth his points if you're running with at least 2 units of mortals just to have in front of him. And then his damage wise, he's not as great, I find, as the Soul Feaster or Keeper of Secrets that you summon in, but he could hold his own. There's few games that I don't have him lasting till at least turn 4 or 5. Your game where you ate him with a dragon is pretty much the exception.
Yeah, Karzai had some words with him.
Not nice ones.
No, mainly they were more like roar and but it's mostly the words. But yeah, my issue with Gludos. So Gludos right now is 475, and you're right. There's a lot of interesting utility there. Let's not also forget that Gludos has one of the few like hard bonuses to cast in the army, right? Being a +1 to cast Unbind and Dispel, which is good. Yep. That's a super strong ability. As long as Gludos isn't too wounded, he can give himself a 5-up ward pretty reliably on an uncounterable, effectively prayer effect. It's not actually a prayer, but it's sort of the same thing. It's on a 2-up.
It's described as a prayer.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the priest keyword or anything.
Yeah.
And he's certainly, and he, by the way, he's also on a 3-up save, which is very rare in this army. So he is one of a very small cohort of people who's on a relatively tough save and can stack. And yes, you mentioned his aura. He broadcast this, for those who don't know, this big 12-inch aura of neg1 to hit. Basically, if a model wanders in there, if a unit wanders in there, they're neg1 to hit. My issue with him is that he's 475. Like, I look at what 475 chews out of this army that's already pretty light on wounds and bodies. He's not a monster.
Yeah. No.
Right.
He's still 2 guys on an objective.
Any brackets?
He does bracket. My problem with him is I've tried him a whole bunch, and maybe there's a better, we're going to talk about it. I think he can have a place if you're going for like a strong center sort of anvil strat with him and Painbringers type of situation. I think that's, and probably Hellstriders to back up. I think that's where he probably excels and has value. I think if you're trying to run any kind of more mixed list, or trying to lean toward offense or something, you're not going to pay as much. It's also harder for him to for that list to farm depravity, right? Like your strong center list needs to be, it's more focused in a single area. It has less power projection. Now it can, which is unusual, it can take a hit, which is great because most of this army does just fold like a wet paper bag. But, you know, I will say if you, Glutos would cross to good for me if you more or less build around him. Yeah. So that's what I'll say. Right? I don't think he's just like, oh, let me start with him and then I can kind of go wherever I want. He's not a modular piece.
No.
Yeah. So that's
like I have my screw you heroes list doesn't have him in it at all because he just doesn't fit with anything else it's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. While we're here, we would be remiss if we did not mention just a little bit of the bad. We've already dunked on the Keeper of Secrets plenty, who the problem is hits like an absolute feather, dealing an average of 7 damage, cannot make herself pile in twice anymore, and most importantly, her command ability is still used in the combat phase, where you are now fighting with other very important combat phase command abilities like all-out defense and all-out attack. So she's getting it stuck with that kind of stuff too. I cannot explain how unworth it I find the Keeper of Secrets. It's a perfectly fine summon, but it's just I can't ever see it in a starting army ever. And we should also shout out the worst efficiency model in the game in Shalaxi. That's right.
Wow.
The absolute
actually exists.
Exactly. This army does stand apart as having. I put this challenge out there. There is no model more divorced from their points cost than Shalaxi Hellbane. It is the least efficient model in the game. There is no more overcosted model anywhere than Shalaxi Hellbane at 405 points for a model that makes 3 attacks.
I mean, you can get more, and she can be made to double pile in.
No, you can't get more. You can make somebody if you want to invest in a second keeper.
Yeah.
To follow her around. Yeah, you're right. That is the definition of throwing good money after bad. Like, you might as well just roll down your window on the highway and start throwing hundreds out the passenger side window. Because that is the investment you're making there.
I'm gonna take that list to next year's Brewhammer and beat Kelly for worst army played. That's what I'm gonna do.
There you go. Yeah, Shalaxi is the least efficient unit in the entire game. It's exciting. Like, it's cool to have that distinction. It's honestly fun and funny to me that it exists. I wouldn't play her at 200 points. That's how bad she is.
Yeah. I don't ever look at her.
No.
She has a 6-inch range attack.
Stop it. You gotta stop. Yes, you're right. She does have the worst preset option of the weapons the normal keeper can take.
Yeah.
Because the hand, you can take the hand, the shield, or the whip. The hand heals you every combat phase, which is incredible. The shield at least gives you some kind of mortal wound protection. It's 6 up, which is fine. And the whip does nothing.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. She actually...
You pick one enemy monster model within range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
She's super bad. Super bad. All right. Yeah. Anyways, that's our list of good. And I think there is forces here. We'll talk about Path to Victory and like what can successful armies look like in Slaanesh. Here later on, because we're going to talk about how we can sort of put these pieces together into a couple different combinations. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the good units. All right, so here's my list. Hellstriders, who I think are legitimately good, legitimately great. Like I'm gonna give them the designation of great. Okay. Hellstriders at 135 points. I mean, like the whips are fine because on the charge, as you mentioned, they can cause neg 1 to hit. The enemy gets neg 1 to hit, right? But honestly, I don't care. You can use them with claw spears as well. It's not super relevant to me. I like
both.
Yeah, I mean the claw spears have, whatever rend and stuff. I don't think it makes that big of a difference in the end. They are exactly what I want them to be. They are great, effective chaff. They have a 14-inch base move. They are on cav bases in a unit of 5, which is like the hotness for chaff, right? Because you can horizontal them bad boys right out. They can cover a lot of space with a little 1-inch gap in between them. And when they need to get somewhere, they get there. Like, because they're so fast, you kick the auto 6 run or something, and boom, they're 20 inches away. It's wonderful.
Yep.
And they have a base 4-up save, which in this army is good. Like, they're actually reasonably decent, decently tough chaff. I like everything about them. And as you said, there's some utility with the like if you take the whippies, the whippy whips, when you charge, you also give somebody neg 1 to hit, which is a great combo charge tactic, right?
Yeah, they're great too because you tell your opponent, okay, these guys will make you neg 1 when they charge, or they get extra damage on the charge. They're more focused on I better not let them charge anything I care about, rather than focusing on everything else you're doing too. It's great.
Yeah. I rate them. I think they are a great unit. I think a lot of armies would want a unit like this, is my honest answer. Like, there are a lot of armies that don't have a quality, speed, relatively tough chaff unit like this. And so, standout. Absolute standout. Hellstriders, A+. Way to go. Like, it warms my cold, icy, dead heart when I put my Hellstriders on the table. The Liberators are 115 points. So there you go. So they're about 20 points more than Liberators. They're 5 points more than Vindictors as a baseline there. That's probably a better baseline. Blissbarb Seekers. A lot, not all of the shooting power, but they bring a lot of the shooting power of the regular Blissbarbs. But they do so with a heck of a lot more wounds. So a unit of 5 at 4 wounds apiece is 20 wounds. Obviously, that's pretty simple math. Good range, very high mobility, and they still put out a lot of shots because they're 3 shots each. So you get a good number of shots out of the unit. I think Blissbarb Seekers. This was a strong component of Sousa's list. He used Blissbarb Seekers. I think Blissbarb Seekers are good. Again, it's like in a unit of 5, coherency isn't an issue. They have an extreme amount of speed. They have a good amount of range in what they can do with their shooting because they're bringing an 18-inch range with 3 shots each. Now, given they are on 4s and 4s and they don't have the little +1 to wound dingbat following them around like the footwinds do. They should have just strapped him to like another Seeker.
Yeah,
just like
one of the old Seekers too.
Exactly, just kind of following him around. Maybe just tie him onto the front of one of them. But yeah, like they're they're perfectly great. Like, well, great's probably strong, but they're perfectly good as a unit. They're 220 points, which isn't crazy for 20 wounds. It makes them one of the most points to wounds efficient units in the army.
And there wouldn't be a terrible unit to rally either.
No, you get yeah, you're absolutely right. Because they tend to engage at range, they end up being extremely rallyable. Right? And so they, like, when you rally even one guy back, you're getting back 3 shots and a 4 wound thing back into the unit, right? So it's a strong rally target, absolutely. So, like them. And then I used the Twin Souls picture here because I honestly think Twin Souls win out right now over Painbringers. but I would put Painbringers on my honorable mention list, and I could see people making arguments both directions. The reason
I'm
the twin
a Painbringer side.
yeah, and that's fine. I think that you can make good arguments for both. So everybody understands Painbringers are a 6-inch move, 4-up save, 145 points, 2 wounds each. So you buy them in a unit of 5. So you're getting 10 wounds for 145 points. They make 2 attacks on 3s, neg 1/1. 6s to wound are mortals. 6s to wound are mortals. It's everything, all the mortal triggers, which this army has certain units have a good amount of. But they always sit on the wound because they already have a 6 on the hit trigger.
Yeah, they double tap on 6.
They double tap, yes, in melee. Now remember, you don't get that with shooting. I don't know why. I guess just because we're not allowed to have any fun.
Yes.
No, actually, that's one of my solutions that we're going to get to is if they double tapped with shooting, that would solve the bliss bar problem. Something that would become a really good option.
I don't disagree with you. It's unbelievable that we got that rule and they just didn't get they introduced a bunch of new shooting units and then rewrote that rule and were like, no shooting, no capes.
Well, not only that, that want to be in units of 20.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That
they could actually hit that marker.
3.0 drops. I had a unit of 20 Painbringers in my list, and I was so happy with it. So happy. And then 3.0, I was like, no, you can't do that anymore. I was like,
right.
Oh, so they're just going to rewrite the rule with an FAQ. FAQ drops. I'm like, oh.
No.
I get nothing.
Cool. Yeah, you can just not do that anymore. Which, by the way, I mean, that's what happened with a bunch of units and Aether Gold in KO.
Yeah, sure.
All the Balloon Boys no longer were able to get gold.
Yeah. Suddenly just didn't benefit from the Allegiance ability. Yeah.
Right.
So the key with Painbringers is that they have a built-in +1 to save all the time, which is great.
Yeah, and that's what I like about them. Is I don't have to worry so much about spending all out defense or something on them.
Yep.
If somebody has a -1 rend, I'm like, they're fine.
The reason I like Twin Souls is they're an 8-inch move base, which I know doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but in my estimation, the difference between moving 8 and moving 6 actually does end up mattering over the course of a game.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
And they're base 2 damage. They're a weird standout unit that they don't have rend, but being base 2 damage is really good. You have to use your Twin Souls very carefully. You need to sort of multi-engage if you're going with a Twin Soul strategy, because you can't let your opponent all-out defense against that unit. You need to give them a different thing they want to be all-out defensing against with your Twin Souls. But what I like about Twin Souls, they're 3 attacks each on 4s and 3s, no rend, 2 damage. It's a perfectly good profile. Obviously, there's plenty enough ways in the army. Just you can all out attack them and put them on 3s and 3s, and you should be running some form of acquiescence to give you reroll 1s to hit. Or once every other round. This is the thing about Twin Souls that bothers the living crap out of me. By the way, Twin Souls are 20 more points. They are 165.
Yeah.
But Twin Souls have a rule that I love and hate simultaneously. So it's very Slaanesh.
Yeah.
In that they do this little stance-dancey thing where they can choose to... It's not choose, but they... Whatever. There are 2 dances.
You pick one to start.
Yes, you pick one to start, and that sets the rotation for the rest of the game, right? So they either... when you set it at the start, they either get reroll hits, reroll all hits, which is great. It's a strong thing. Especially when you hit on 4s. It's crazy how much more effective it makes them when you get them on reroll all hits, right? Or you can give them a 5-up ward. Love it. Also love it, right? That makes them quite tough, actually, because a 5-up ward on a unit is real strong, as we've seen from Nurgle. The issue is you have no control over that effect. You can start it, you can choose your turn 1, and then from there they have to alternate back and forth and back and forth.
I mean, you basically, unless they take turn 1 and you're into them in combat turn 1, you're basically always going to do defensive turn 1.
Yep.
So that they are primed to hit hard when they go into combat in turn 2.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just problematic because oftentimes they'll just accidentally end up in the wrong stance for what you need them to be in that round for things you couldn't have foreseen in round 3 and 4. Right? Like, it's pretty, you can sort of understand the shape of the flow of the game in 1 and 2.
Yep.
But, like, we're not Sherlock Holmes over here, right? Like, that's, you don't play AOS 5 steps ahead. Like, I know how all the units will be positioned in turn 5. Like, no, okay, come on.
You know what an easy one would have done? Would have been to say they can choose to exit the stance. Instead of choosing one, they can choose to exit, and you can never do the same stance 2 rounds in a row.
Sure, there's 10 ways they could have written it that it wasn't the awful way they did. But here we are. But nonetheless, I still like Twin Souls. I've run the Twin Souls quite a bit, and they can do work. I especially like them actually in Lurid Haze coming off the side, maybe with like a Sigvald, and you just kind of give them a long charge. Like you can take a unit of 10. Oh, by the way, the other thing about them that's super relevant that I didn't mention is they have a 2-inch reach.
Right.
So they're actually perfectly viable in a unit of 10 because they can fight over the top of their friends, even with the coherency rules. So, like, Sigvald is going to definitely make the charge and draw the attention. So either you land the long 9 with them off of the Ego Pump, who can reroll, best champion name in the game, or you don't, and it's fine, right? Because, like, there's already somebody who definitely got in there and is drawing a lot of attention, so it doesn't matter that they're sitting there. And if you danced correct, you can be in a position where you're all right to absorb the hit. Now, I didn't put Bliss Barbs on this list. Regular Bliss Barbs on foot. I hate them. Okay? I think they're not good. That's my take. But, Mars, you've used them. You talked about them a little at the beginning. Do you want to, what's the upside on Bliss Barbs, right? Break them down for everybody.
I like, they can run and shoot, which I like. They have 20 shots going into something with running and shooting. It's very nice. You give them all out attack. You got 3s and 3s.
Yep.
For shooting with -1 into 1. Can't argue with. It's just compared to what you have in the army for like reaching out and touching people. It's the best thing we got, and their battle line. If you're not worrying about like Hellstriders, so just run out there and everything, I think it's a better option compared to Demonettes by a mile.
Oh god, it's not even close there. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And if you don't want to take a Lord of Pain as general, like they're not a bad way to just to fill up the slots and just have a way to just chip Depravity or Focus Fire. Like when I played against Sons of Behemoth, like that was my go-to, is just pump 40 shots into a giant, take them down, and then move on. Yeah. So they have some utility. I think the biggest problem is really the points with them. There's so much, and you look at them wrong, and they're just all gone right away. People's chaff that's supposed to die will go in and just eat them.
Right.
And it's not worth it at that point.
Yeah, they are legitimately. So everybody, let's level set here. 6-inch move, as you mentioned, they have run and charge, so they've got some good mobility. Like, sorry, not run and charge, run and shoot. I apologize.
They have a 30-inch threat range.
Yes, 30-inch maximum threat, which is good. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
Now, they do have to keep in mind though, to achieve that 30, that's not a long strike's 30-inch range, right? That's we have to be within 18 inches of you, right?
Yeah, and now they're coming.
Now somebody can come say hi. Right, they do have to run up into danger range of where things can get back at them, right?
And with an army with so little bodies to begin with, it's hard to keep them protected.
Right, it's hard to actually then like chaff them or something. No, they are usually the sacrificial lamb, and they're 170 points for effectively 11 wounds because of their weird little homunculi on a 6-up save, and that's 6-up save and bravery 6. And bravery becomes a thing if you have multiple units of Bliss Barbs, because they will suffer casualties if anything looks at them askance.
I mean, I think you're going to take one unit of 20, right? And if you wanted more Bliss Barbs, you take the Striders.
I think you only take them in 10s. I think it's too much of a risk. You take them in 20, it's way too easy for them to accidentally get blown up.
Yeah, the few times I've ran them as 20, that's exactly what happened. It's a big block of running them around too. So just trying to keep them safe from anything, it was really hard.
Like like this is going to seem a twisted example, but the halberd attacks off of one fulminator can wipe this unit mathematically. Not the mount, not the other guy or his mount. 1/4 of that attack profile will wipe that whole unit on average. Like, it'll pick it up. Okay? That's challenging. Right? Now, obviously, fulminators are an incredibly hard-hitting unit. But the point is, like, Ungor now are going to come into you, or Gore. God forbid you get charged by, like, 10 Gore. And they're going to do work on you.
No, well, I mean, your stand and shoot will kill 10 Gore.
You're, like... Yes, you hope. You hope.
Well, no, right?
They didn't like just probably shots, bring the 10 Gore, but yes.
40 shots, even on 5s, which is what it would be.
No, we're not talking about 20. I'm talking about 10s. We're talking about 10ers right now. So a 10er would make 20 shots.
Yeah, I'm saying 20er, but yes, go ahead.
The problem with that is you're talking about, okay, let's say you take a 20 and you're banking on Unleash Hell. What are you hitting on there, Tom?
5. No, I acknowledge that. Like,
yeah.
Like, which means that you're only hitting with a third of your attack, so you hit with 13. Of those 13, you wound on, like,
7. You wound on 7. If they have a 4-up save on the way in, they cut a third of that out, meaning you do about 4 wounds.
Gores or what?
Yeah, Gores are like a 5-up save. I understand. I'm not, that was my point of, like, my point was only to say if something like that gets into you, you're in extreme trouble from a 75-point unit.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, if we want to make this clear, I'll charge you with 2 Gore units, and I'm still clearing 30 points or 20 points on you.
Sure.
Right? Okay. This is the problem. Like, it's their job is effectively, as Grant just said, is kind of this, like, pepper thing. Right? The idea is they can sort of pepper wounds around and feed your depravity. The problem is, one, there's a lot of units in the game that they just won't damage.
Right.
Like, that will withstand that neg 1 shooting, and you'll actually fail to get a wound through. Okay. Especially if you try to split your shots. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right? There's a lot of units in the game that even if they do kill a couple and you get the depravity, like if you kill a couple of things, they'll recur them back. Right? Because either through rally or advanced rally tactics, because there's a lot of people who are like, there's a lot more like I rally on a better number creeping into the meta, not to mention just recursion. You know, like I mentioned against Soulblight. Yeah. Like, Soulblight is such a nightmare to fight with, like, a pepper strategy, because they're like, whatever. Soulblight and Nighthaunt are the same way here. Both of these are, like, nightmare armies for Slaanesh to fight. Right? Because they just their units just go back to full.
At least with Nighthaunt, I don't have to worry about how bad my rend is, though.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There you go.
So, you know, my point is that, like, I understand what they're there for. What I'm alleging is that is a failed strategy. There's too many things in the game, not even just, by the way, on, like, I'm not talking about just, you can leave, like, the broken armies out of this, or whatever, bent armies or top armies, or I don't want to slander them, but, like, we'll take the strong armies out of this, right? The top tier.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff hiding around the mid table that's just going to be like, that unit's dead. Like, I'm going to kill them. And they won't, like, and they're dead. I had to put no real effort into this. I didn't need a hammer. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, you know, you, like, yes, you can all attack and get them to 3s and 3s, but you can only all attack one of the units in the shooting phase, right? So, if you've got multiple units,
a unit of 20.
But again, then that I get it. It's just such a risk.
Yeah, no, I see it. The way I ran the 2, I had one that I wanted to, like, I tried to kill something. That's the one I'm getting my all-out attack on. The other one I'm hoping just to pepper. get at least a wound in for the depravity that I could harvest later.
Yeah.
Just.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, you know, I think Michael Warner,
them because they're not, as I said, I find them swingy. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I agree with you. You cut for a second, but I agree with you. They are swingy. And I agree with Michael Warner, who said, you know, the game design leads into mostly lifting opponents' units on the table, not spreading wounds around, right? Like, the meta we're in right now is a trading meta, right? Like, I kill your unit, you're trying to make me, like, good players lead you into bad trades. I lift your unit, you come lift mine, but I win out in that trade, right? And so on and so forth. And it's very hard for Slaanesh to play the trading game. All of their units are very expensive. If they fully trade, if they actually kill the unit, they get no depravity off it. If their unit dies completely, which it often does, you get no depravity off of it, right? And so this is the challenge. Like, in a trading high damage meta, Slaanesh is in a rough spot. That's actually why I like all the units that are on the screen right now. Because I think they actually do trade well. Right? Like, Hellstriders are the perfect chaff that people might think they can just pick up, and then suddenly they don't. Because they might put just not enough into it. Like, it's 10 wounds on a 4-up save. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's, you know, you just pop off the all-out defense, and suddenly they'll stay alive.
The double tap ability is only for 20 or more model, or triple top is 20 or more models?
20 or more models, yeah, and melee only, yeah. But I rate all of these because I think, like, again, Twin Souls I think are good to play the trading game, right? Like, you lure them in with your Hellstriders, you counterpunch with the Twin Souls, right? Like, that kind of a counterpunch strategy I think works. If they can get in there, you can kind of set up multiples of those charges, and you can get in there and kind of do those, you can play that game. All right. We shouldn't leave this slide behind without talking about, are they the worst basic demon in the game? If not, it's only because bloodletters are also so bad. But Daemonettes.
Yeah.
Woo boy. Woo boy.
I'm just saying bloodletters are worse just because Daemonettes are on 20mm bases. That's it.
Yeah, right. The 25 mil base is probably what keeps Daemonettes from occupying the worst base demon spot.
Yeah.
But at 140 points for what they are, they're just real bad. It's shocking how bad Daemonettes are.
Maybe. Like,
go ahead. I've gone around this with so many people. I'm ready to. It's fine. I can dunk on this all day.
I haven't heard an argument from anybody that said they're worth it or good, so I'm interested.
No, so like a block of 20.
Sure. Okay.
As a missile.
Yep.
As a, like, I'm not saying you don't hoard that. You don't do a bunch of this, right?
Yeah.
But a single block of 20 as a missile is not a terrible way to spend 280 points in this army when you look at what else it's competing with.
Okay,
what I mean by that is,
go ahead. I'll let you
go. Because, like, so I'm thinking about as one of the counterpunching units, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there are things that they will go into, and they, like, I'm thinking about like a giant, right?
Sure.
Like, imagine that they went into a giant where, like, because you're probably going to be in combat with multiple giants, so if you can force them to all-out defense another giant, and not who they're those. Like, again, you're always engineering what fights. Like, that's what Slaanesh is trying to do. It has to force bad decisions on, like, command abilities and stuff like that.
No disagreement.
So if you can get in, like, line up, for example, as a counterpunch, 20 Daemonettes into a giant, you're doing 40 attacks. These are
41, but
ranks. What, 41? Sure.
Yeah.
And 6s are triple tapping.
6 is triple tap, yep.
That's not terrible. Like, you're gonna end up turning out probably around, I haven't done the math, but I think it's around 40 hits. Is that right? 40 wounds?
So you only hit base with 20, but of those 6.5 are 6s, so we'll just round up and say 7, which will add another 14 attacks back in. So you hit with you effectively pull 34 hits out, and then you get 17
assuming you don't
wounds
all
out
out
of
defense.
Yeah. I'm just
all
writing
outside,
on.
yeah.
I'm writing on base numbers here.
Yeah.
It actually all out attack wouldn't move the number that much. What moves the numbers more is if they happen to have acquiescence on them and you get reroll ones, because then you might trip in. It increases your chance of tripping into another 6 or 2.
Right.
The issue there is you charge the giant. Let's say you do that.
Yep.
Giant turns to you and goes, "Cool, stomp, boom. Okay, now you're not at 20 anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many incidental wounds that happen in this game.
Sure. Like but you're gonna put them in Heartlands.
I guess, sure. I mean, yeah. Why not be high drop in this army too?
Like anything that is going to be model dependent upon keeping their numbers up for that stuff. You have to prevent that, and that's going to have to go in hunters. I mean, I'm doing the same thing with in my Night Haunt. Sure. In order to I'm going high drop, like layers of charging and counter charging, and just assuming that, like, in order to stop things from getting stomped off or preventing command, like, that stuff goes in hunters.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I really do. Okay. But here's the problem. For that 280 points, you get 20 wounds on a 5-up save. Now, what's cool about it is that you do have, like, this. I'll give the defense. They have reroll charges built in, and they have run and charge. Okay, which are 2 good rules they have based on their scroll. The problem is, this isn't a meta that allows that kind of unit to live. Like, there is no unit playing a functional role in a successful army right now that acts like that.
Yeah.
Because there is, like, okay, great, you're in hunters. You charge near anything that shoots, you're below 20.
Yeah.
They have any kind of range, you're below 20. Because they're super incentivized to just, like, do a couple wounds to that unit and bring it down. Right? And keep in mind, again, anything that looks at them will damage them.
Right.
If they're on a base 5 save, nothing else going on.
I've been running Life Swarm, and it's super effective for filling units back up.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are a wonderful target to have a Life Swarm around them to keep pushing them back to 20.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the points or the magical dominance really to bet on getting that off.
Yeah, look, if I was taking endless spell, I'm taking mirror.
You never bet on it, but it's always a perk when it goes off.
Yeah, I mean, like, mirror actually is some good mortal wounds. Like, there's stuff. Tom, let's do a simple comparison here. Is Bestigor, like, let's forget the Hearthstone exists. It just got smashed to rubble. Doesn't exist. Okay. Are Bestigor, as they exist pre-BOC buff, like, can they carry your army? I would call them like I would call them a good unit in BOC, right? They're decent.
Right? Maybe, like, if you did like 10 units of them and waves of a bunch of missiles.
Sure. Okay, let's look at Bestigor stats. First of all, Bestigor are 5 points cheaper. Let's start there. But whatever. Let's call them.
They're like 3s and 3s, neg 1 Ren, +1 attacks on the charge. So they're 3 attacks.
2 attacks, 4s and 3s, neg 1 damage. Better to wound, same number of attacks. Okay. Now, given these guys are on 32s.
They gain an attack on the charge.
They gain an attack on the charge. Yep. That's exactly right. And they can run and charge.
4-up base save.
They're a 4-up base save. That's right. They also have run and charge. They also have a way to get +3 move just by standing near another dude. And yes, as you just mentioned, they get +1 to hit. If they attack somebody with 10 or more models, they get reroll hits to 1 if they fight an order unit, and they get +1 attack in the turn that they charged. Okay? They are undoubtedly a way better unit for cheaper. And
I agree with that.
They're like, okay.
But you know what? I can't have Bestigor in my Slaanesh army.
And you can, actually.
I mean, you can. But not actually get my good abilities, right?
You don't get a benefit from any of your allegiance abilities, yes.
Right, which is the problem. Like, if I could have Bestigor triple tapping with Slaanesh, that's what I would be doing. But, like, given the infantry options that Slaanesh actually has, they're about as good as, like, I could see a world where I would put 20 in a list in a mixed arms like utility.
I'm telling you, you would run those and then learn. That's what would happen.
I've had I tried to run Demonettes because I didn't want to build Hellstriders at all. And that was my idea, triple tapping, I'll run a block of 30 of them. No way they're going to eat through 30 of them, and it's never worked out.
I mean, they just explode. They
30
explode
is just so many points. Yeah,
it is, exactly. and like it's the only way you're ever going to get a triple tap off is by having 30 in the unit.
I had 30 of them, and they were gone the moment they hit combat. Like, it was down to 3 of them against 3 pigs.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of world we're living in.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, where Daemonettes can be interesting is as a summon. Like, summoning 30 Daemonettes is perfectly fine, because you're dropping, like, if you're in Godseekers or something, and you summon 30 Daemonettes who show up with +1 to charge, right, and have built-in reroll to charge, that's a great summon. Yeah. Because then you can land it, right? They're safe. Yes, they might still get unleashed on the way in, but it's a summon unit. It's free. You didn't pay for it, right? Like, if they're charging in with 30, which is 12 depravity, even through some unleashes, you'll live and stay over your 20 line, right? That's a great summon. Again, it's a 420 point summon.
Just because of that.
So if they were 110 points,
here's my honest answer. I don't think they have as they exist, I don't think they have a role in the current meta.
I hear that. Would you consider taking them at 110?
Would I run them? Sure. Like, just to see. I need to feel what it feels like. I would try it. I don't think it would work, but I would try it. That's my answer. Like I said, right now they're kind of relegated to the summoning world. That's where they live.
Yep. I'd try 110, 100, just to
the reason why
point in my army for other places. 110
is the 20% reduction from where they currently are.
Yeah,
I understand. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. It'd free up more points for me to play it in, like, for more seekers or something. It'd be interesting. I'd try it.
All right, let's talk about the path to victory, because. Like, we as we've said, there's some bad stuff here, but there's some good stuff here. And I think there are units that you can put together into a combination in a couple different playstyles to have an army that's going to give a good game, right? That's what you want. I don't think there's any auto win crap in this army, and frankly, I don't. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I'm challenged with running this army now because its old version was kind of exactly what I liked. Not the Locust. I hated the Locust. I wish that had never existed. I've said but like the way it damaged before was what I like. I like big, smashy, damagey armies, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I carry the same disappointment with Suns in that they're not big, smashy, damage armies. That they're just like stand there and live people. I build my Suns army to be big, smashy, damagey armies. Because that's how I like playing it. Like, it's more fun that way for me. I like my Iron Jaws. I play a smashy melee Stormcast army. I've never seen a long strike in a list that I've made. I never will see a long strike in a list I made. It's not my style. And right now, this list it's a very, very, like, Slaanesh is a very finesse army. And that doesn't tend to be my style. I tend to find that pretty exhausting to play. I like things that hit hard. I don't care if I then die. Fine.
Right.
Like, I like the glass cannon of, like, I'm gonna go trade, but I'll kill the thing and then you'll kill the thing. I would point out, by the way, that the current game with all of its objective, like the battle tactics, incentivizes the smashy as well, right? Because battle tactics are all like, kill that unit that's battle line, kill that unit that's a warlord, right? A lot of stuff involves killing things.
Kill your general. Yeah.
Right. And so that stuff is hard for Slaanesh to complete. Okay. Cool beans. But what's our paths to victory? Here's my 3 takes. Maybe there's more. I'll be interested, Mars, to see what you think. 1.
Yeah.
MSU skirmish. So many units, a lot of shooting capability in here. So you're going to have some bliss barbs on foot, probably. You're going to have some bliss barb seekers, right? And you kind of you might have you have the ability to damage multiple enemy units or to focus fire when you need to, right? So you can kind of widen or focus the aperture, as it were, as needed, right? And you could have optional sort of allied coalition shooting units such as cockatrices. That's what Bill Sousa did, right? He had 3 cockatrices in his list, just to have these extra shooting mortal wound units, right? Because it was cheap. It's cheaper than basically anything in this army, and it has the potential to 4-up do D6 mortals, which is really strong and covers a weakness that Slaanesh often has, right? If the cockatrices open up, they can often bring a unit weak, and then if you need to remove it with more focused shooting, you can. I think that's one strat. The second,
it's
go ahead, please.
A good one. Yeah. No, I like it. I've done something like that. Not with cockatrice, but with Ungor Raiders in the list too, because they're cheaper, and you spend the same amount of points pretty much for a reinforced unit of them than you would with bliss barbs to get more shot. Well, the same amount of shots. It's a fun list, and it does have some gas in it.
Well, it's interesting because of the shooting units. Yeah, because of the shooting units not benefiting from the allegiance abilities, you actually don't suffer much by dipping into coalition units, right? Like, they weren't going to locus anyways because they're a unit, not a hero. They weren't going to double tap because they're a shooting unit. So it's like, all right, I still get depravity out of them because they're a unit that exists on the table. Who cares?
Yep.
These guys also have a terrible save in bravery, so who cares?
Like, I kind of wish that they could still tap into some of the slaves units with some of their stuff. Like, I'd be really interested to see what Chaos Warriors do when they're double and triple tapping.
I used to run them back when we could, and I really, really enjoyed it. They're fun. They were slower than the rest of the army, but I felt they did a better anvil job than the Painbringers do.
Right. Or like Chaos Knights.
Yeah. Oh, they'd be great too.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think they used to be part of the strong center strategy. Chaos Warriors, that is to say. Obviously, that went away when they lost the access to the allegiance abilities. But yeah, so you still got a strong center strat, which is, I think, as I mentioned earlier, like Glutos and a combination of Painbringers, Twin Souls, something like that. You can mix just a small amount of shooting into here, and I think you should. But like, this is often going to use Hellstriders for chaff, or to countercharge in and stack the negatives to hit. Right. Yep. And you're kind of hoping to sort of win in the grind, as it were. And it works best on scenarios where the objectives are more centered, like where you're trying to get into the midboard and do your work. It's harder on the very spread 6 objectives for the strong center to bring it home.
With those ones on the strong center, you hope they try to go after Glutos and lose their army trying to get there, and then you spread out. But
yep. But I think there is a strat there. The Painbringers can be pretty tough, especially when near Glutos and with other sort of associated support that could be happening in just units. This army is sort of bereft of a lot of synergy, so your synergies happen in your unit combinations more than they happen in an ability that's printed on the sheet.
Why do Twin Souls not have the demon keyword as well?
Because
bad decision.
Life is funny, Tom. I don't know. They have a demon in them. That's literally their whole story. Yes, that they are 2 souls.
0 cents.
Yeah. I guess if you just shove a demon in a mortal, that doesn't count anymore. The mortal wins. So what that tells me is you got to really get
all stories.
Yeah, you got to really get the demon in there, like deep, to become a full demon, right? He's kind of hanging out. It's fine.
At what point does a demon prince stop being a mortal and become a demon? At what part of the transition?
Right. Yeah. Well, he's got to become enough
clearly
demon.
Farther than Volkia.
Yeah, you got to be farther than Volkia. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The hooves and wings, not enough.
Right. Go farther. And then my last list here is called Bet It All on Sigvald. And, like, Sigvald's a crazy good power piece. He's offensive. He's tough, especially in, like, Lurid Haze where you're deploying him for sort of maximum carnage. He can often get in where people don't want him to be. He's on a relatively small base for what you're trying to do. That is to say, it's not a unit. It's harder for them to block him out of everywhere.
Yeah.
He comes in almost guaranteed to charge because of his built-in +3 to charge. So, whether if you're in like Lurid Haze Invaders where you're coming in off the side with him, he's on a 6. Obviously a rerollable 6 if assuming you don't need to charge with anybody else. Because he is a hero and can make himself reroll his own charge. This actually is one of the few places you might, I say this very lightly, might think about having a Keeper of Secrets just to make Sigvald double tap, since he is one of the most damaging units in the army. And you want him to clear what he fights. Because
you don't want him to hit back.
Well, you can take the hit back. That's not what you're concerned about, really. I mean, he's on a 3-up, 4-up. Again, he is the toughest model in the army, just raw save wise.
It's the next combat phase.
Yeah, you want him to charge again, because remember, his attacks is set to his charge roll. Otherwise, it's 5. And so, like, the fact that your average charge roll is a 7 means you're going to get, just because that's 2d6. Means it's worth +2 attacks to him to keep charging.
Is it your charge total or your
No, it's your unmodified. Of course, it's your unmodified. Nothing in the army is good, Tom. You got to put that idea away. See, you're thinking like how normal armies are written, where there's like some good thing that's kind of an interesting trick. That is not present here. Error 404, file not found. Okay.
I hear that.
If there's ever a way, I understand.
I'm hopeful.
If you ever ask yourself the following question, wait, that rule could be implemented good or bad. Which way is it implemented? It's bad. Just, you can answer that right away. Boom, bad. Instantaneously. There's no counterexamples. But anyways,
keep your expectations low. You're excited for these things.
Yeah, exactly.
I get 7 attacks? Okay.
Yeah, boy. And and obviously Sigvald's great ability is that he cuts through ward saves. Right? He doesn't allow ward saves, which makes him like a nightmare to something like Nurgle or enemy heroes that rely on their ward saves to stay alive. Like all the other enemy 300-point-ish heroes or stuff like that, people who rely on their ward saves to live, he will cut them down. Like, he just slices through those boys. So, like, because, you get him into something like Phoenix Guard or Hearthguard or any Nurgle unit. Like, he'll lift a unit of Blight Kings like it's nothing. Okay. So, that's where he's super strong.
One of my favorite pieces.
Yeah. And, like, he is, in my estimation, the good target for the pile-in twice. Because you want him to clear that so that he can keep charging. Right? If something comes into him, you want him fighting twice so he can keep charging the next time it comes to your turn. Like, whatever, right? Oh, don't worry, Brian S. We're going to talk about some potential fixes as well. Did I miss any strats? Do you think we covered it? Like, no. These to me feel like the 3 strats with the army.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say betting it all on Sigvald isn't probably a good one.
No, but it's fun.
Guys turn from you, it's bad. Oh, it's the reason why I keep playing Lurid Haze, because I put him in every list just to do this.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Tom, by the way, and this might be something that you like, not being deep in the heart of Slaanesh, Lurid Haze has a second command ability that's all out defense. Like Lurid Haze, it gives you a unique command ability that's just a duplicate of all out defense. So it allows you to all out defense twice in the army during the combat phase.
You could use it at any time, not at when they get picked too. So you can watch and wait and like, okay, I will use it now.
Yes. Technically, it still has the wording that would allow you to use it after the roll if you really wanted to be the worst person in the world. Okay. So you can be like, roll.
Take any advantage you get.
Got a couple 2s there. Spin that bad boy up. Right. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of a goofball move. But yes, so
I accept.
Yeah, look, we gotta take what we can get here. But those feel like the 3 strats to me. Souza went for sort of the MSU skirmish. I've played against and have played the strong center build. In the end, it's not for me because The problem with strong center is it kind of limits actually one of the strengths of the army, which is the mobility and the depravity. But at the same, like, you sacrifice your strengths to cover your weaknesses, if that makes sense, which can actually be a decent trade in the middle, but it doesn't suit my playstyle as much because there's some scenarios you'll just kind of be like, oh well, okay, I guess I lose. Right.
I started playing the strong center playstyle with the new book because I used to just play a whole bunch of Keeper's Secret, just go out and smash stuff. It was amazing, but the strong centers made me appreciate more of the. I wouldn't what we have for synergy. I wouldn't say it's really synergy, but what we have for it, and it allows for a little more creativity in my list now. Now that I've come to appreciate what we have a bit more.
And I think the strong center does make the best use of Glutos, right? Like he is a hard piece to shift in that list. Like he'll generally stick around and be an anchor for your army. Like he defies the normal Slaanesh logic of being very easy to lift. So it's good.
Yeah, and people will try to put so much into him with a 2-up save, a 5-up feel no pain. Because you're obviously putting Mystic Shield on him. Or all defense, and people overcommit trying to take them out and get nowhere, and it works for your advantage your advantage quite a bit.
Yeah, what you got to watch out for is the turn where the Mystic Shield gets countered, right? Where maybe he's taken a few incidental wounds, and the Priestess Dolce or whatever her name is dead, and so he doesn't have his 5-up ward anymore, and then some monster comes in and roars him, right? And it's like, oh boy,
yeah, didn't see that happen before, never.
Not that has happened at any point in time that we can think of. No. Never happened. All right. The future. What do we want to see for Slaanesh? Let's wish list this out. Let me just say this. We couldn't get a new book soon enough. I'm sorry, everybody else who's waiting on books. I'm sorry, Gitz and Korn and everybody. I love you all, but man, give me a new Slaanesh book tomorrow built like the Nurgle book. Like, I want that level of just middle of the road, fair army. Yes, that's what I would like, please. I don't want the excesses of the first one. I don't want this one. Yeah. I just want a fair army that's actually built to feel like Slaanesh, which, in my mind, Slaanesh has always been a speed kills glass cannon. That's the story of Slaanesh. When you look at the narrative, it's like lunatics on chariots just rip-roaring around the battlefield, just like, woo! Like, witness me! You know, like, that's what it should feel like.
Max conversions don't work unless they do this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that is the army. That's every story they show up in there like that. Right?
Yeah.
But that's not how they play. But anyway, I would, I don't know, maybe a pinky toe. I could probably live without a pinky toe for a new book sooner. It's fine. I don't know if that's a trade anybody at GW is willing to make. I don't know what use they have for a pinky toe, but if it'll help, it's on the table. You can walk without it, so it's cool. Okay, yes, Jen S said, sorry, Doc's getting the quick book. Yeah, they needed it. They're in such a bad, rough spot. Okay, what do we want to see? Mars, your wish list. What would you love to see out of a future Slaanesh? Maybe this is a new book. Maybe this is just a really great Tome Celestial BOC style. What do we got here?
Either one of those I'll be happy with, honestly.
Sure.
Just something. Anything. Please. I'm in the desert.
I'm holding out hope because we haven't got a Tome Celestial yet. I'm like, come on, baby. Maybe now's our time.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's the allegiance abilities for the triple tap is something that really still chaps me a bit. Because I wanted the Painbringers. That's what made them really good beforehand.
Sure.
It was just putting them up to 20 and just blowing something up. I really want that relooked at. Depravity. I like the way it works now. I really do. I just crank up the numbers for what we need to summon so we take the points down. Because I feel like hurting other people and getting hurt kind of fits within the Slaanesh thing. I don't know how else they'd flavor it. Or find a way to cap it each turn. I don't know. Something better than what we got.
Sure.
But I get with the whole idea of Slaanesh is kind of harder to do. With the heroes doing damage kind of went a little crazy. And now this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick up on what you said real quick.
Yeah.
Like, one of the ways that I would love to see it go is you move the numbers on the table up slightly, and you cap the depravity to being like, think like Nurgle or something like that, like 1 per side or a few per side per round. You know what I mean? Like, you just, like, if 5 units are wounded, you get add depravity. If 1 unit's wounded, you get add depravity on each side, right? So for yours and theirs, so it's kind of be like at 2 max, you're kind of getting there. And that would, like, slow the generation way down, and it would stop the hard strat from being, I want to pepper everything, which accomplishes nothing, and just be like, well, if I accidentally kill a few units, I'm not losing out on points.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because as long as somebody's been damaged on both sides, depravity is happening. Slaanesh is happy, right? And like that would be it would control it. It would slow the table way, way, way down, right?
Yeah.
And then we could just wheel back from these points while still keeping the same cool mechanism of, like, wounding units. It would also limit the bookkeeping, because, like, I have to carry little tokens with me, right? Like, I use the Warcry tokens is what I use, you know, the little X's that say something's activated, and I, like, okay, as soon as somebody's wounded, I'm like, that's a depravity, and I'm, like, doing all this bookkeeping every round where I gotta be like, okay, end of the battle shock, hold on, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, then I gotta go around and like, Slaanesh has always been this weird bookkeeping army, right?
Well,
which it doesn't need to be.
You've slipped into greed as one of the one of the excesses, where you're just like, I want all of the tokens.
Yes.
Yes.
I want more mortals. I love the mortals in Slaanesh. I want them to branch into all the vices. We got martial perfection right now. Let's get into more gluttony next. I want to see those leather daddies you're talking about, but with a big gut like me.
Oh, man.
Beautiful.
That'd be amazing.
Man.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, get masks and dad bods.
Yeah.
I'm into this.
Mask, some leather straps, dad bod. I'm in it all day.
Hairlines.
Yes. That's what I want. I don't think I'm asking for too much. Better rules, dad bod models. That's it.
No, seems very fair. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I do think there's definitely more that they could explore. I don't mind, by the way, leaning into, like, I mean, I know this is supposed to be like an expansive game. Slaanesh is more than just the sort of sexuality lust thing.
Yeah.
But, like, it's also that. It can be that too. Like, we can have models that have some kind of sexuality to them. That doesn't just mean, like, half-naked ladies, by the way. That can cross the spectrum. Kingdom Death does a pretty good job with this, having pinups of both varieties. Like,
that's what I put on my epitome, was 2 male and female pinups instead of the demonettes.
Yeah, sure, exactly, right. Perfect. And so, like, I would love to see them lean into the spread of excess, right? Because yes, like, Glutos and the gluttony thing was cool. I'd love to see a unit reinforce that. That's kind of like that, you know. You mentioned the martial perfection in, like, Sigvald and the Painbringers and stuff like that, right? People who are willing to give up, or even the Twin Souls, people who are sort of abandoning their souls into the excess of being perfect fighters, right? But I'd love to see that concept explored more, of sort of the sins when taken to excess. Tom, what do you got? What's your thoughts? Besides reduce all the points in the army by 20%.
Well,
I agree with that.
We're going to reduce the army by 20% across the board. It would immediately fix most things. Other light touches I would do, I would allow triple taps, double triple taps to work with bow shots.
Yeah.
That would be huge for the army. It would open up an entirely new play style that's not currently there, which is all the shooting. And then I would also do, I would give Twin Souls the demon keyword. I think that would offer a really interesting alternative target for Keeper of Secrets. For
and
their
Dexessa.
Say what?
Dexessa, the melee lady. We didn't talk about her, but she's real bad.
She's real bad, but she has a command thing where she could help demons out, so that would be cool.
Right, that would be cool. And then as well, the pilot for the Keeper of Secrets. The Keeper could target a Twin Souls unit, right?
Yep.
Because it's a demon unit. if they did that. And like a unit of 10 of those bastards with reroll hits and double pile-in would do work. Something that this army just doesn't have as much of right now. And I think like that, those two things with 20% reduction, I think would immediately put this book into the fat middle.
Okay.
Overnight.
Yeah. So
like a healthy fat middle, like 50 to 55.
Yeah, I don't know. I think fundamentally, I think their fundamentals are still too weak for that to be true. But you're right; it would probably get them out of like the just bottom of the barrel. But anyways, who knows? It's hard to ever test a counterfactual like that.
And by the way, you could errata basically all of that.
Sure. A lot of this could be fixed with that.
Those suggestions are something that could literally happen in the next global update.
If they wanted to.
And keyword change. And errataing those two abilities to all attacks instead of just melee, to remove melee and add the keyword. And I think honestly, I think that it would go a long way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ground up because to me, I just see the overwhelming bad design, lack of synergy, all these challenges in the book, and I wanna see a good book that actually feels like Slaanesh. So here we go. Here's my list. You ready? Well, I'm gonna go through these rapidly. Thought a lot about this. Clearly. Change number 1. Locus. Gone. That Locus is stupid and should have never been written like that. It's dumb, gamey crap, and I hate it. It's out of here. New Locus. Alright? It's called the Locus of, like, excess speed or something like that. Alright? And what it does is very simple.
Locus of celerity.
Yeah, great. Sounds good to me, Tom. I love it. Let's go with that. Good word. Good use of a $5 word there. I enjoy that. Okay. What it does is for other demons wholly within 12 inches. Okay. 3d6 charge. There we go.
I already love it.
Okay. It's that simple. You're trying to cross the red zone. Yeah, it's only the locuses are always only affect demons when they buff other things, so we have to stay in line there, right? So that would be great. That'd be neat. So yes, all your demon stuff can charge 3d6 inches. If you want to get, we could go farther. Like it could be +1 to run and +3, and they have a 3d6 inch charge, something like that. Or they could all reroll runs. I don't care. Like there's lots of different ways you could make that represent speed that wouldn't be game breaking. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be like 3d6 charge and +3 to charge and double your move speed. Like we don't need to get stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like you can sure. Keep this contained. You could just make it reroll run rolls. Yeah, fine.
Sure.
Cool. It's perfectly neat ability, right?
Yeah.
And that one guy nobody likes, I disagree. Slaanesh does need to be stupid fast. It needs to be stupid
like half
fast.
Their thing.
That's their thing. Because nobody flies. Like in my mind, Slaanesh has two things. Strike fast, strike hard, no mercy, baby. That's Slaanesh. Like it's what it is. Like welcome to Cobra Kai. This is the dojo. Okay. and yes, I know I did slightly butcher that. Thank you. But I like just giving them that kind of thing would also it would really help them like just get into the red zone, get into combat where they want to be with a lot of units that want to be in melee, right? By the way, a lot of the units that don't necessarily want to be are mortal shooting units, so it's fine. They're not like the losers here would be obviously twin souls or something like that. Okay, number 1. Number 2, the depravity fix I just mentioned. We're fixing that. Summoning is now crap, and you get like 1 unit a game. Fantastic. All right.
Love it.
Excellent. Now it's fixed. Next, bring the points back down out of the stratosphere. Okay, fine. We did that. Next, let's actually make the Keeper of Secrets a melee threat. Okay? How about we do that? Let's just get nuts.
Yes.
Let's get crazy. All right? I know she has 2 claws, and so somebody looked at that and went, "Oh, so she makes 2 attacks?" Last time I checked, the giant has 1 club and yet makes 10 or 1 flail, and he's making 10 attacks. So, you know, we can get wacky with the numbers here.
How many stomps does the Ball Crusher have with his fists?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot more than he has fists. Okay. So Oh, that is a good point, though, that one guy nobody likes. Locust does work on all the units. And I forgot that in Nurgle it does work on all the units. All right, cool. We'll make everybody charge 3d6. Thank you, that one guy. You're absolutely right.
Sigvald will love it.
Sigvald's in for 3d6
Sigvald
charges.
says, I accept.
Yeah, now we get some real attacks out of him. Now I like where we're doing here. Look, he is the best. So there we go. We're going to take the Keeper's Secrets. We're going to give her a real number of attacks. I don't care how you max this around. Her command ability, gone. Strike it from the scroll. It's eliminated. It doesn't exist anymore. We don't need double pile-in stuff. We don't need fight off phase stuff. I don't like it. I wish it wouldn't exist. I know it's still around, and I know it's still kind of around. But it doesn't need to be there, and it conflicts in a bad way. So just kill it. Just get rid of this crap command ability. It was never part of Slaanesh. It doesn't need to be there. But the Keeper's average damage, okay, when we compare her average damage against a 4-up save, should be something like 15 to 16 damage. That's how hard she should hit.
You're saying based on what other things that are comparable in the meta are heading for.
Correct. Yes. Most of those other things, by the way, fly.
So can we talk about, should the meta be hitting that hard?
Sure. For these kinds of 400 to 500 point greater demons and big heroes, yes.
Right. I mean, I think that I would want a deeper question of like, is there too much speed? Is there too much damage right now floating around?
Well, and also that's still putting her at the low end of these units. Like, again, she's not near the upper level Stormcast units or Auric units who all do way more damage than her still. Yeah. Okay. For the same points cost. And she's not flying. Certainly. So I can chaff her out, right? And so I don't know why it would be quiet. The end. I'm sorry. I can try.
I think her Dark Temptations ability should actually be a tough decision. Not D3 mortal wounds. Everybody's taking that. They're risking losing their hero.
So
crank down to D6.
Yeah. So her damage goes way up. That. By the way, real numbers. That's like, I don't care how you spread her attacks or what they do. Average damage is 15 to 16 against a 4-up save. That would be a real doubling on her current damage. Make her worth 400 to 500 points for a. By the way, I didn't say improve her defenses.
No,
not part of what I'm doing here. She's still 14 wounds on a 4-up save. That's it. Right? Not like that's already still weak in the current meta of just shooting that will just kill her instantly. Yep. But at least I would feel like if I got her in, she'd do something. Okay. Daemonettes. Look, I know it's an annoying ability, and I normally hate it, but I'm gonna be straight with you here. I want the 40k rule. Okay. 6 is double tap. 6 is to wound. Go to neg 4 rend. Something like that. Or just give them, if we don't like having a separate rend, fine, make it do mortals. I don't care. Or neg 3 rend. Or whatever. We seem to be pretty rend happy in the new edition. Let's ride that train. Okay. Yes, it sucks because then you have to separate your wounds into 2 piles and be like, okay, these wounds are at neg 1 and these wounds are at neg something else. And yes, I hate that, but I like a high rend better than I like mortal wounds because then there are plenty of units, especially in the save stacking world right now, that will still have a save against a neg 4 rend.
Yeah.
All right. And I like that better than mortal wounds, but whatever. So it's worth the cost for me here, right? 3, can some of the heroes actually have real synergies? That'd be my next one. Like the Lord of Pain has a command phase or combat phase command ability to give people reroll hits. Super, great. Not only is it competing with all-out attack and all-out defense, but the main thing he often wants to buff with that, which is Twin Souls, already do that 2 or 3 rounds of the games.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we just have real synergies? That's all I'm asking for. Just a few buffs. I don't need them to be crazy. Just a few buffs. A few power pairs where you're like, oh, I would like to take this unit because I took that unit. That's all. I don't want Seraphon. Don't want it. Okay. I just want something to feel like, yeah, this works with that. There we go. Yeah. Speed kills. I would also up the rend across some of like the characters and some of the bigger units that need to push into like neg 2 rend. It's endlessly hilarious to me that throughout Slaanesh's entire existence, they've been one of the lower rend armies because almost everybody's neg 1, but almost everybody's neg 1.
Yeah.
That's it. Which, like, neg 1 might as well be not anything for the most part in the current world. So, like, maybe the army based on giant crab claws that in every story are, like, Snicker Snack, Vorpal sorting through people and slicing heads off. Maybe that could actually have some amount of rend to it. That'd be neat. It'd be super cool.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so... It'd make my models of them impaling Stormcast actually realistic.
Yeah. So there we go. That's my take for the future. All right. Gentlemen, I think we've done it. We've covered Slaanesh. I hope we gave some people some ideas for paths to victory. Talked about some good units. And I hope to see the win rate. I hope some people do try taking them out. I'd love to see them show up at some more tournaments. Even though it is rough right now, it can be a fun challenge. Especially if you like a good finesse army. If you're in for a very like Johnny sort of challenge, I think they can be really good. Like as a good psychological experience for you to play with. Yeah.
And even worst case, you don't do good. You go get drinks for you and your partner. Just have a good chat in the end. Either way, it's a good time.
Absolutely.
They're fun to play. Oh, they're so fun to play at a tournament.
I will say, like, we've said it a bunch of times, but there is a tremendous joy in, like, when you fight with Sigvald and get a good thing in, or like when you roll the Twin Souls into a unit that can't all-out defense because they've already spent it somewhere else. You have some, like, Siggy's over here fighting something and they need to AOD on him, and then the Twin Souls come in and it's just like, oh, chomp, chomp, chomp. Like, it can be great when it aligns. Like, you feel pretty good. So there's stuff. All right. Mars, buddy, great stuff, man. Thank you for coming on and talking about Slaanesh. Really appreciated it.
Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're still watching, first of all, thank you. Second of all, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, do all those fun things. Third of all, don't forget about the announcements we made at the beginning of the show. New merch in the merch store, and the Patreon is now live. So
there.
That's all there. And I can't wait to see everybody at Adepticon. Don't forget the countdown is on, folks. 20 days. Can't wait to see everybody in person. It's going to be a very, very great time. But for all of you who are still watching, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I hope everybody has some fun getting depraved with Slaanesh, or not. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.